We're rolling.
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 116 of the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies podcast. We're brought to you by Black Belt Digital Marketing. Anything that you need to build your business on or offline, website design, Google Ads, graphic design, printing, we can absolutely help. Check us out at Black Belt Digital Marketing on Instagram or our website, bbdigitalmarketing.com, and you can request a free review of your online presence today. My name is Milton Campus. I'm a brown belt training out of South Florida. We got Bo behind the camera.
What's up?
And joining us today is, am I saying litigation attorney? Is that, or just attorney?
They both work.
It works the same? Okay.
Yeah.
Litigation attorney Paul Geller. You are also a black belt. How many, what degree? Do you have some
No,
degrees?
I'm just a
regular old black belt?
Yeah.
So, Paul, just hang out with us for a second. I'm going to do some shout-outs, and then we're going to dive right in. So don't forget, everyone, to like, comment, share, and click that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate the support, so thank you. Let's see here. Couple of shout-outs. Everybody knows Flow and Roll, right? By this point, if you listen to the show, right, hands down the best custom gi and no-gi gear in the business. Don't believe us? Visit them on Instagram at flow_n_roll and check out all their custom designs. We have our Peace Love Jiu-Jitsu rash guard that we did that's already all sold out.
It's beautiful. I love it.
All gone, and I gave away stuff. It's like completely almost out of stock. There's like a few sizes left, so we got to reorder already. You could find our podcast on their site as well under their team section. So go ahead and check them out. Again, it's flow_n_roll on Instagram or their website, flowandroll.com. You get 20% off with code JJD. This episode will air after, but the entire month of April, it was 30% off. Our code worked for 30% off on everything. So I had a bunch of team members that bought some stuff too. So very cool.
Nice.
Thank you to the BJJ box. We're going to give you a shout out, a proper shout out in the middle of the episode because we're going to do another unboxing today. All right. Thank you to Neutral Zone Clean. All right, we got some Neutral Zone Clean products here: sprays, wipes, and what else do we got there, Bo?
Clean
sprays,
your
wipes,
dirt.
and the soap. I like the soap.
Ass.
Thank you for cursing within the first 15 minutes.
Check
rule number 1: don't curse in the first 15 minutes. Check them out at Neutral Zone Clean on Instagram and Facebook. Neutral Zone Clean's mission is to keep you clean on the mats, during training, in your personal life. So again, we got soaps, wipes, sprays. We've got refills. There's a huge bucket that we've got around here somewhere. I think they're going to do the bucket special again, so we're going to probably announce it on the next episode. But listen, this is all about, again, staying clean on and off the mats. I keep a canister in my car. So get yours at neutralzoneclean.com and use code JJD for 15% off. All righty? All right.
That was 3 minutes.
That's 3. There we go. Under 3.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very good.
All right, let's dive in. Welcome.
Let's do it. Thank you,
Mr.
Good
Geller.
to be here.
Pleasure to have you on. We were introduced, and it was like right as I guess the jiu-jitsu community was hearing about the. I was calling it the Rener lawsuit, which obviously it's not Rener. It is
Jack Rener.
Jack Rener. This is the young man who broke his neck while rolling with his coach. His coach performed, I'm not even exactly know what it's called, but right, like a rolling back take. And his neck went one way, the coach went another. And now this young man is, from what I understand as of today, is a paraplegic. And he's, I don't know if he's able to move at all, but he's basically from the chest down, right? Chest down in his limbs.
couple of points of clarification.
Sure.
He was a quadriplegic.
Oh,
right?
quadriplegic.
He was.
Which means all four totally?
So he was paralyzed from the neck down.
Okay.
It's interesting, Milton, because there's been so much immediate reaction in the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah.
And much of it was wrong. Much of it was based on information leaking out, but not everything. And a lot of controversy about Rener, who served as an expert. We'll unpack it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I think that a few weeks have passed now, and we have a better understanding of how the injury happened, the accident, and what, if any, impact it has on academies.
So what's crazy to me is that there was more backlash against Rener than, I guess, about the case itself.
Well,
right?
So I think the most important thing to me, I think that we all have to keep in mind, this young man got severely injured doing something that we all love to do. It's heartbreaking. I mean, and his instructor, Sinistro, right? Very well respected black belt competitor.
Sure.
But and I don't think he did anything wrong or intentional or malicious. Accidents happen. Jiu-jitsu's rough. But this guy got paralyzed. Now, to clarify, he has since had a partial recovery.
Okay.
And some folks are saying, look, the guy's no longer paralyzed. Why did he get $46 million? There's a documentary out there called Paralyzed to Peaks, and it's the Jack Rener story.
Oh, really?
Done before this lawsuit. It's inspirational to me, right? This guy has fought to recover some movement, and he's hiked some peaks. Now, you watch him on video, he has no dorsiflexion in his foot, so he's dragging a foot, he falls. He is not fully recovered. He still has what they call partial quadriplegia. And as a lawyer, and I'm a plaintiff's lawyer, I'm not a personal injury lawyer, but I represent plaintiffs in large lawsuits. So I don't have any problem with the fact that this guy recovered a bunch of money, and I'll explain why. I think it's a tragedy, right? We all can agree upon that.
Yeah.
And human nature is when something tragic happens, you want to find a villain and you want to blame somebody. And so what happened after this, came out, right? There was a $46 million jury verdict. People blamed essentially two different camps formed, right? People blaming Sinistro. How could a black belt do this to a white belt? And people were saying, well, is he really a white belt because he was a college wrestler or a high school wrestler and he competed, I think, in Pans as a white belt, and he's been a white belt for 2 years. We know that there's, various types of white belts, but he's a white belt. No jiu-jitsu instructor has awarded him a blue belt.
Yeah.
So people were upset with Sinistro, and then you had lots of jiu-jitsu folks saying, we roll and things happen, and which is true. You had another group upset with Rener Gracie. So if there's anybody out there that doesn't know this, Rener was the expert witness for the plaintiff. His cousin, Clark Gracie, was the expert witness for the defense. Now, from a litigation standpoint, what do we look for in an expert witness? There's two types of witnesses, right? There's experts that are consulting experts that are in our conference room in our law firm that we'd never put them in front of a jury. They could be brilliant Harvard scientists that will help explain things to us as the lawyers, but we're not going to put them in front of a jury. A testifying expert is what Rener was. Now, I don't care who you are. You talk to Rener Gracie, like this guy is right out of Central Casting as the greatest expert witness. He's a Gracie, clearly an expert in jiu-jitsu, incredibly articulate, more articulate than I am. He's eloquent. He explains things thoroughly. He's a great expert witness. Greener hired a really, really well-known and high-end plaintiff's law firm, and they, in turn, hired, I think, the best expert they could have. And so people were really pissed off that Rener helped this victim by saying that the back take that the coach performed was unsafe. Clark Gracie was the defense expert, and from what I've learned, I've read about this case, Clark was asked, and I think we should go back to the back take and talk about it, but Clark was asked, do you teach that back take the way it was done by Sinistro? And his answer was no. So you have the defense expert saying, I don't teach it that way, because it's not the way it should be done. And
after I listened to, today I went through and I listened to the entire Rener and Tom DeBlas Instagram Live that they did together. And by the end of that, I'm like, wait a minute. Greener had two expert witnesses because it pretty much seems like Clark and even Sinistro, they all agreed with just about every premise that the plaintiff put forth.
Absolutely.
Like there were three people on the same page,
right?
Or four people: the plaintiff, Rener, Clark, and Sinistro,
right.
the defendant.
So, because Sinistro admitted that he's in charge of safety and he's got to take care for all of the students, especially the white belts. So you had sort of the perfect storm, everybody pointing. It's no surprise. And then people are offended at the amount. This guy he's in his early 20s. He was a quadriplegic. He's still, he's not recovered. Bowel, bladder, ability to walk, ability to make a living, maybe have children, So, but here's the point I wanted to make. I don't think Sinistro is the bad guy here. I don't think Henner's the bad guy, or Clark. They told the truth. I really believe they told the truth. They told what they honestly felt. But here's the bad guy. It's the insurance carrier. I haven't heard anybody discuss this. And what happens is there's insurance limits, right? If this is not a case where insurance should pay the claim, then what is? It's nuts to me that they didn't pay, because apparently there's $1 million policy and the insurance carrier refused coverage. So what happens is a demand is made for policy limits. If the insurance carrier denies, and insurance companies, I've heard this story over and over and over again. They love to collect their premiums, right? You pay their premiums
out,
but man, every opportunity they can, deny claims, delay claims, confuse claims. They just don't pay the claims. And they didn't pay here. And so here's a little jiu-jitsu twist, right? So you I know you're a brown belt, very close to a black belt. There are certain moves in jiu-jitsu, right? We talk about chess, where let's say I have you in a baseball bat lapel grip. I may induce you to pass my guard, right? Somebody who doesn't know, oh, great, I'm passing his guard, but what you're doing is you're falling into a trap. Yep. So if the insurance carrier had paid the claim, which they should have, that's really it, right?
Would it have been just the $1 million? It
would be the $1 million.
He wasn't looking. Greener was not searching for more money at that point.
Well, here's the jiu-jitsu angle. If they pay the $1 million, then basically it's over, because then the only defendant left is a jiu-jitsu academy owner who likely doesn't have much.
Yeah.
By the insurance carrier declining, that gives the ability of the lawsuit to go after a deeper pocket, the insurance carrier. It's called bad faith.
That was one of my main questions today.
So that's what happens.
Is he going to see this money? Because I saw a video of an attorney going, he's never going to see that money.
I saw that too. I don't know who that guy was.
It was actually cited in a Bloody Elbow article.
So what typically happens is, so now Sinistro, right, or the Academy, Del Mar, they're covered. They've been paying premiums for an insurance company that's supposed to have their back and pay these claims, and they don't do it. So now they get hit with a $46 million judgment. It's essentially the defendants here that have a claim. It's called a bad faith claim against their insurance carrier. But what happens is they assign, in some states it's a formal assignment. In some states it's tantamount to an assignment. They give that claim to the plaintiff to go collect from the insurance company. So there may be an appeal by there'll be some settlement discussions. I don't know that they'll get the full $46 million. They'll certainly get the policy, and I think they have an opportunity to negotiate more.
So once the insurance company said, we are not going to pay your claim, and said, we're willing to take this to court, that took any financial culpability from Sinistro? Am I using the right term? Would he be responsible for anything once the insurance says we're not paying out? He's never going to pay that $40. He doesn't have that.
But that makes it gives a claim against the insurance company, because you could have. I've been paying you these premiums. You could have gotten us out of this within limits. You didn't. So now you've passed my guard, but I've got you in the baseball bat.
They are responsible for that $46 million. If it doesn't go any further and there's no appeal,
correct,
they would be responsible for that $46 million.
Correct, but it would. There's a second piece to it. It would be a bad faith lawsuit against the insurance carrier.
By
Sinistro would assign those claims to the plaintiff.
Okay.
So I look, there's a chance. I don't know that he's going to get 46. There's a chance he's going to collect some real money here.
The insurance company could go back and say, we're okay with the judgment, but not with the amount?
Absolutely. Well, they could say, hey, we'll give you that $1 million now. And the plaintiff's attorney is going to say, no, too late.
But can they go back and say, yes, we lost, but $46 million is a bit,
they can appeal the
amount.
Much.
Just the amount, not the entire case.
Of course.
Okay.
But that amount, I mean, it seems like a shocking number to people, but I think Miguel asked you this on a prior episode. Like, what's it worth? You're going to be a quadriplegic. You know, I mean, 46 million. No, like none of us would choose.
That's
right?
Nothing in the overall scheme of things.
Right.
I think we'd all say, keep the 46. Give me my ability.
And the other thing,
to
like,
walk and
100%.
Yeah.
But the Tom DeBlas thing, he and others thought that Rener was responsible for the 46. Rener just talked
for the
about,
number, for coming up with that number and saying this is what that's worth.
He had nothing to do with that, right? That has to do with actuaries and compensation experts and longevity experts and medical experts, past pain and suffering, future pain and suffering, past medicals, future medicals.
So let's just stop. We're going to come right back to the Rener. What's up?
One sec. Can you move your mic down a little bit and to your left a little?
Yeah, because you wind up talking to me right here. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Happens all the time.
Yeah, because I was covering most of your face. And I was like,
I want to come back. Okay. We're going to come right back to talking about Rener and his involvement.
Okay,
but I think it would be interesting if...
Go.
Yeah, we never cut. Don't cut anything out.
Okay.
No big deal. Straighten out mics. So that people understand who you are and what you've been involved with and what, that you have a valid opinion. Who's this attorney talking? This guy. I mean, I saw another attorney today, and it seems like he's not correct, right? So I don't know who he is. So let's talk about your background and what you've done, and let everybody know who you are.
I'll give you some background.
Yeah,
my law background and a little bit of my jiu-jitsu background. So I run a firm called Robbins Geller. It's the largest plaintiffs class action and mass action law firm in the country. We have the record results in virtually every genre of mass case there is, from the largest security, Enron, if you remember that's our case. I'm involved now in the opioids litigation. We've recovered over $50 billion with a B. And that case is still going. But we've settled against the large, of course, Purdue was the main maker of Oxy, a horribly greedy company that knew that their drug was addictive, and yet they pretended it wasn't. They told doctors it wasn't. They told patients it wasn't. Other manufacturers wanted in on the obscene amount of money that they were making. The distributors, which are AmerisourceBergen, McKesson, and Cardinal Health, the three biggest distributors, made a ton of money.
Didn't even some of the pharmacies like CVS,
CVS, Walgreens, Walmart. We settled with all of them for billions and billions of dollars because they dispensed these, knowing that it didn't make sense. There's red flags. There's obligations that they were required to stop this, and they didn't. So that's what I'm currently on. But I mean, I recovered recently $650 million from Facebook over a biometric identifier. We've done some big things. EpiPen, the life-saving. My son has a nut allergy. He's grown up now, but we need these EpiPens because they're lifesavers, and the manufacturers knew how necessary they were. So they did all sorts of anti-competitive behavior to jack the prices up 600%. We go after large companies that screw people, investors, consumers, in a similar way, and we've done pretty well, and I feel like we're doing good. Like we're on the side of David versus Goliath.
Okay.
And it sort of goes hand in hand with jiu-jitsu. So from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, been doing martial arts my whole life. As a kid, I did taekwondo as a little kid, and then
who hasn't,
right? In college, I did a Vietnamese style called Kung Nu. I'm still very, very close friends with one of the founders of the style's son.
Okay.
And then in law school, there was a guy named Francis Fong who is a Wing Chun Kung Fu. I mean, Francis Fong is like the real deal. I trained with him. And
See the guy online? He has a channel?
He may at this point. I don't know.
He's an older guy, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe late,
I don't think,
late
Paul,
50s,
you're not like you're real heavy on the online and social media.
Right?
Because there's a guy that I watch. I follow the Wing Chun Instagram page.
I mean, my jiu-jitsu friend.
And his name is Fong. His last name is Fong. I think it's Francis.
There's like an Augustus Fong and there's a Francis Fong. Francis Fong is like sick, in a good way. But my jiu-jitsu friends, like Rodrigo, I have a wooden dummy I have a gym at home. Do you know what the wooden dummy is?
Yeah, right.
And so my Rodrigo Mendez, who gave me my jiu-jitsu black belt, he comes over and he just laughs at the wooden dummy. There's this, the Wing Chun
where jiu-jitsu is very bougie when it comes to the who's the best. And,
anyway, but then when I started doing a Japanese style jiu-jitsu called Miyama-Ryu jiu-jitsu, which was sort of Aikido based, But man, once I got to Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like it was, that's it. I think it's over. So my first instructor was a guy named Marcel Ferreira. He had just come over with Liborio and Conan to start the American Top Team. And of course, Dan Lambert was behind it. But Marcel, still one of my closest friends. I love the guy. He gave me my blue belt. He gave Bo Nickel his blue belt. So he's Bo's jiu-jitsu coach. Everybody knows who Bo Nickel is now.
Now they do it.
But he went up to Happy Valley at Penn State to start American Top Team there with Bo. Marcel ended up moving before. Now he's in Pennsylvania, but he had moved back to Brazil. But at the time, this American Top Team, like it had these, I mean, Hermes Franca and Edson Janice and Dustin Dennis, who's still a close friend and a huge part of my jiu-jitsu journey. Pahumpina, I don't know if you know him, but he's
Parumpa, right?
Pahumpa, yeah.
Pahumpa. I just know that phonetically, Parumpa.
Phenomenal, unbelievable jiu-jitsu, like a head jiu-jitsu coach.
Yeah, I mean he's in every corner. He's in the corner of.
And I've trained with him a lot, and Marcus Aurelio.
Quick question for you, just going back to Dan. I know who Dan Lambert is. My niece and nephew, or I think it's my niece and nephew, are friends with his kids. They live in Parkland. Did he train? Does he train? He
very good black belt.
Oh yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
You just never saw him. And I never saw him in a gi, or I thought he was just always the money man.
No, he's the money man, but he's legit. He's legit. Like, and they, the funny thing is, like, I think people sometimes assume like Lambert, or maybe even me, right? Because I'm a fairly successful lawyer, and I've taken a ton of privates, and do they give these belts? These guys do not give belts. Like Dan Lambert is legit. A legit black belt, like period.
You need to be legit to hang with those anywhere guys, in American Top Team.
Yeah. I mean, like Dustin Dennis, who I have trained with a ton. He submitted Marcelo Garcia at brown belt in Brazil. Marcus Aurelio, who I trained with a lot when he was here, he put Gomi to sleep in Pride, and like these guys are like legit.
Yeah.
Then I ended up moving to a guy named Rodrigo Mendez, who was also at one point American Top Team. He got his black belt from Dedeco. He has an academy in Delray. He's one of my closest friends. He's I guess who I would say is my instructor, although I have a lot of instructors. I would take a bullet for Rodrigo. He would take a bullet for me. I got my black belt from him. We still train.
Who's giving you that first stripe? Who's the guy that's giving you the stripe?
Rodrigo. Yeah.
That's your. That's your professor.
I don't want to get into this because it was kind of weird, but like I won my division. This is a long time ago, and I beat JJF Miami Open at blue belt. And one of those guys who I just mentioned, not Rodrigo, gave me my purple belt, but he wasn't my guy. Like
it wasn't okay.
It was earned. I was a purple belt.
Was there drama around that?
There was a little drama around that. Yeah. It was
I know somebody. I want to be careful. I don't want to say his name. He's been on the show, and he wasn't his professor, his instructor. He has like your professor and then your instructor. I'm like, I've got a bunch of instructors, but like my professor,
right?
My professor is the guy that's giving me my belts. He wasn't due for his black belt. It was close. And then he had like a coach that he's had like that he just practiced with over the years, like kind of on the side. And that person was one of my coaches back in the day. And he came in was invited himself or asked if he can come to the promotion, and he winds up giving this guy his black belt when his instructor wasn't. What are you giving my? Like he considered himself his instructor, and I know that person, and he was just like kind of screwed up my. You want that to be that special moment, and that's I don't care. Anybody could say whatever they want about it's not about the belts. I get that. But a black belt signifies for most of us 9-10 years, maybe 9 to 12, somewhere in that range of work of 3 to 6 days a week, open mats, for a lot of people, competitions, getting hurt, blown out knees. You said you had your hips and shoulders.
It's emotional.
It's a special moment, and for anybody to take that moment away, I know that I want that moment with my coach.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Know what I mean?
So I had it's not that unusual, but I had lots of injuries. And I was a brown belt for a long time because I couldn't train. My hip was so bad. I had ACL surgery. I still have a separated shoulder, bad separated shoulder. I had somebody in a triangle, and I got slammed illegally, and my shoulder popped. But my hip was the worst injury, and I literally couldn't lift my leg. I couldn't put somebody in a guard. And so I thought, shit, I may be retire as a brown belt. And I ended up having a total hip replacement. And then, we talked earlier about my wife. My wife was like, "You're done with jiu-jitsu, right?" And I said, because when you have an artificial hip, it's easier to dislocate than a real hip. And if you dislocate an artificial hip, it's like a bad situation. Really? So you have to be careful. But I was determined to keep going. And so when I got that black belt, and Rodrigo Mendez gave me the black belt, Marcel, Bo's coach, flew in from Pennsylvania to be there. Pahumpa was in Italy at the time. He did a video that they put up on the screen. Sam McCoy, who's a Marcel black belt.
I know Sam.
You know Sam?
Yeah, he coached at my school for a little while.
Okay, so Sam came to the academy. Chris Martin's one of my dear friends who is a Pablo Popovich black belt, came. Like, a lot of my jiu-jitsu folks were there. And then Rodrigo, he takes out a new black belt, and he calls me up and everything, and then he says, "But I can't give you this black belt." And he took the old ratty black belt from around his waist, and dude, I cried like a baby.
See, it's a moment.
It's a moment.
That's a
moment.
moment.
It really is. Yeah. It really is. So anyway, I feel like I've got I've got some jiu-jitsu, and I've got a good legal background. So it really does combine for me. I feel like I have some. But the other thing I want to say, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out 10th Planet. Here I am, a gi traditionalist, old school, pressure passing, no inversion. Fuck that. But then all of a sudden,
he sounds like me, right? I'm like, I don't do that. Man, not my body type.
But a guy opens up a 10th Planet literally 5 minutes from me.
You said Pompano before, and I'm like, that's like right up the road, straight shot down sample for me.
Shout out to Matt Walsh, 10th Planet Pompano. It's a cool. I mean, man, what Eddie Bravo did, like, it's really it's eye-opening. I'm pretty, I can hold my own and give guys a tough role because I know jiu-jitsu, but some of their ways of looking at it and some of their, they don't use gis, right? So there's no lapel, there's no sleeves. They're just these crazy, it's an underhook game and it's a bottom game, really.
Are you technically a white belt there now?
Oh,
or like,
I don't,
would you, if you stayed there and you were training there, would there be a situation where like they hand a blue belt or?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I think Rogan did that, right?
It's
Rogan,
a fair question, right?
He's got the black belt on the Machado, and then he went to the black belt from Eddie.
I'm not. I don't know the answer. I don't think I'm a white belt. I certainly am not a black belt.
Yeah. Not in 10th. It's like almost like a whole nother discipline.
It's a whole
right?
other, but like if you went in there, like I'm going to give everybody a hard roll,
Yeah.
But there's a lot to learn. But so like I was in Vegas when you and I first spoke. There's a 10th Planet guy out there named Bendy and his wife Katie. He's the knee bar. If you Google Bendy knee bar, so I went and man, I had a great session with him. Knee bars, which was not a part of my game. Now I can't wait to start knee barring people. And I was in Barcelona just last week, and I went to 10th Planet Barcelona. So the 10th Planet system, it's a lot of the old school jiu-jitsu guys don't like it. Matt, the guy who runs the Pompano, was in a competition, a no-gi competition. He was wearing a 10th Planet rash guard, and they made him take it off. Like it was really weird.
Really?
And he had to borrow somebody else's rash guard. I think there's a animosity towards this 10th Planet system.
I think it's phenomenal. I mean, I've always asked myself, would you do what Rogan did? I've actually going back to I wanted to stop you when you were talking about Kung Fu before. I've had John Way on a few times. I don't know if you know John Way, and I've in watching Kung Fu, watching like his videos and seeing him do stuff and other people, I'm like, I feel like it's good for hand fighting,
exactly,
and stand up, and if you are on the ground, right, just being super conscious of the way you could move somebody and move, and the leverage that how you can control somebody, right? So I've always been like, I want to do. I've told them a million times I'm going to come down, and I've never gone. But I'm like, I really actually believe that Kung Fu is a great addition to jiu-jitsu.
So
a compliment to it, but I'd never done it, so I don't know.
I totally agree with that.
Thank you to Feito IT and AV, specializing in commercial and residential automation, security cameras, CCTV, POS, and more. Check them out at feitoitav.com or call 305-428-2515 and let them know the dummy sent you. Jiu-Jitsu's favorite monthly subscription box has now joined the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies podcast. The BJJ box is delivered to your door filled with premium jiu-jitsu and grappling apparel, equipment, supplements, supplies, snacks, and more. The crew at the BJJ box find the best in the world of jiu-jitsu and guarantee every box to be worth more than the cost. Each box includes 4 to 7 items you're going to love. Visit thebjjbox.com and use code JJD10 to get $10 off your very first box. And give them a follow on Instagram at TheBJJBox. Neutral Zone is Combat family owned, so they know you need to keep yourself and your equipment clean. They created Neutral Zone Clean wipes and sprays for just that purpose. Neutral Zone products are formulated to reduce the risk of bacterial and fungal infections. Whatever's making you sweat, weight training, rolling on the mats, yard work, or just working around the house, Neutral Zone Clean wipes and sprays can make you feel and smell refreshed. Use code JJD to get 15% off your online order at neutralzoneclean.com. While you're there, sign up for their newsletter to receive the latest info and updates on product launches like their new shower gel and soap bar coming soon. Are you Neutral Zone Clean? Special thank you to the crew over at Flow and Roll for all their support. Flow and Roll is renowned for their incredible no-gi rash guards, shorts, and leggings. Flow and Roll has quickly become the premier custom apparel provider for academies big and small throughout the United States. Reach out today to discuss your custom order and ask about their incredible pre-order program. You can send an email to flowandroll@gmail.com or visit their Instagram at flow_n_roll and shoot them a direct message. And yes, they can create an awesome custom gi for your academy as well. Visit flowandroll.com to check out their awesome designs, and while you're there, pick up a Jiu-Jitsu Dummy signature tee exclusively at flowandroll.com. And remember, you'll get 20% off your purchase of t-shirts, rash guards, or gis with code JJD.
What I love is that, like, I've always been open. I mentioned all these different jiu-jitsu instructors. I've never had a problem. I've never had anybody say to me, other than the belt situation, I never had anybody say to me, don't train with him or don't take a private with him.
Yeah.
And I think just learning martial arts, and I think when you get to be pretty good, it's easier to learn, like, things, you pick up things easier, you understand the way your body moves. The hand fighting, like even at 10th Planet, one of the things they do, because if you're familiar with EBI, they have the overtime rules where you basically have somebody on your back, and then you switch.
Can they choose the position, or is it always back? They can choose
the
their
back
submission,
or like
armbar
or an armbar.
Yeah.
Almost everybody. It seems like the back is kind of, but there's a lot of hand fighting even there. And Wing Chun, John's style is Choi Lei Foot, which is a little bit. I think they all have benefits, but the Wing Chun, even though people make fun of it, they have this thing called sticky hands and push hands, and I think the hand fighting, definitely helps. I did Japanese Miyamaru Jiu-Jitsu, and so like Matt, when I roll with him, I'm trying to catch wrist locks, and he goes that freaking Japanese Jiu-Jitsu stuff. So I think you can sort of take some benefits from all of it, but you should come by.
Listen, man. Like I said, when you said Pompano, I'm like, like technically, if you wrote Pompano on my mail, I still get it in Coral Springs, so it's like part, it's right there.
Yeah.
So So thank you for the we wanted to talk about your background because we wanted to let people know you are qualified to be talking about this. This is within the scope of what you do for a living. So let's go back to Rener. I think that a lot of people started to hate on Rener. Not only it was two-pronged. It's like, okay, you're shitting on jiu-jitsu and you got paid to do it. Do you want to talk about like that, expert witnesses and how they get paid?
Let's talk about both of those things. They're important. So expert witnesses get paid, right? I mean, in every case, you can't pay an expert witness contingent upon the outcome of the case. Mm-hmm. That would be considered unethical, improper under bar rules. In other words, if you were my expert, Milton, and I pay you only if we win, that would influence your testimony. Instead, I got to pay you whether we win or lose. I'm paying you for your time and your expertise. Now, Rener charged a lot. So,
he did say that he charged for his time over the course of a 1 year period.
But I think he was charging I heard $3,000 an hour, which is a hell of a lot more than he charges for a private. I guarantee you, right? So I don't know how he. But
I'd hate to see his numbers on his privates.
Man, but somebody's paying that, and so I don't know that you can fault the guy. Like he was a good expert, and it worked out for the plaintiff, right? It was worth it. And I think he's given the money to charity, probably as a result of the pressure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, we pay expert witnesses all the time. Defense does too. Clark got paid by the defendants. So that's just part of, you need expert testimony to instruct the jury or the judge on the subject matter.
So let me ask you, did you see, I watched 2 videos, one where Rener explains the situation and he's using a training partner to show some of the rolling. And then I also watched the Tom DeBlas Rener. Did you see both of those?
Both.
Okay, so very specifically, I think anybody who will just sit down and forget about just like outside looking in, listen to those things, listen to one or both of those and go, oh, I didn't know all of that. I didn't understand that. Right. Number one, it doesn't mean that it's going to change jiu-jitsu nationwide. Gyms aren't in trouble. This was a very unique. This was, I believe, watching it, this was truly an accident.
Correct.
Did the coach did he intentionally do something? Did he go out of his way to hurt this kid? No. I think he just got caught up in the role and went to do this back take, and the kid went one way, he went another. I don't think that there was, so going back, Rener is not taking, trying to crucify the entire jiu-jitsu community in this one instance. This was an accident. He, his testimony kind of goes just about frame by frame, with what happened. It's valid if you watch it. I even watched in Rener's video. He has the 20-minute explainer that he did, I think, just specifically for Instagram. They add color to the kid's arm and the head. When you see it like that, because when you see the video, it's like black rash guard against black rash guard. But when you see the arm, they make it green, and then you find out that the arm is trapped, and then it's for me, it was an aha moment. It was, oh, that's okay. So this arm is trapped. He can't do base and maybe do the forward roll and give himself some space. He wound up I guess this way, right? He winds up with his head this way, while the coach is going to roll on that side.
So look, I think Rener's testimony. I think Rener was criticized because of the things he said about the way a jiu-jitsu academy should run, which we'll get to. I think what he said about this role, I think he was right. So I agree with him.
Feels spot on.
That back take. First of all, in a roll, he wasn't teaching the move. They were rolling, and when you're rolling, even against a white belt or an experienced white belt, they're resisting. And when we learn moves, right, in our course of jiu-jitsu, you learn and you drill the perfect armbar, the perfect triangle, the perfect kimura, whatever it is, where your opponent is your training partner and you're sort of learning it. When you're in a live roll, it's not uncommon to improvise, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about jiu-jitsu is we all talk about having our own jiu-jitsu, right? And you don't do things exactly according to the script because look at you, you're a big guy. If you and I are rolling and I'm trying to do something, I may not do it the exact way I did it in class because you're strong and you're moving but I still may be able to catch it, maybe not, so it wasn't necessarily the perfectly executed, even as a great black belt. It was a sloppy back take. Let's face it, it was. Even the way Leo teaches it, Vieira, you would never trap the arm. But Leo teaches it with double underhooks. I learned it from Pahumpina, by the way, with a seatbelt, traditional seatbelt. Because
I've done it.
That's
in
the way you do it. Because
position.
When we end up, I've got his back. If he looks up for a second, my arm's right there to sink the choke. as opposed to Leo, you've got his arms are on top of my arms, and then we're into the hand fighting that you talked about. The way Sinistro did it, I think it was more dangerous than it needed to be. It's just a dangerous backtake anyway, and I think we all realize that now because of what happened. Yeah. Think about all the different ways to take somebody's back from turtle or to submit them from turtle. Yeah. It doesn't even have to be a backtake. There's a lot of things you can do. I wish he didn't do this. He wishes he didn't do it, but I think we shouldn't focus too much on this one particular move because that's not going to impact academies, right? What the impact of this lawsuit, the only impact I hope happens is that insurance companies pay the fucking claim that they're collecting premiums for. I
wonder who's getting fired over there.
Well,
somebody's getting in trouble over there.
But
really?
You never know. Like, I haven't seen the policy. Believe it or not, there are exclusions on policies. Like, a jiu-jitsu academy, a guy may go and he wants to get an insurance policy, but he doesn't know much about insurance, and he gets a gym policy, and it excludes, physical altercations. Well, the entire jiu-jitsu is a physical altercation. Yeah. Or it excludes, some of them exclude sexual abuse or molestation or harassment claims. Like, you should never exclude that because you don't know who's going to be an instructor for you and what they're going to say to. Yeah. So, like, I don't know what the policy said, but I do know he had insurance, and you sure would think that this is the type of thing that insurance should pay. And Rener should get something. The damn kid walked into a jiu-jitsu academy and couldn't walk out, Yeah. And then there's waivers, too. We didn't talk about that. There was a waiver, and it was declared inadmissible by the judge.
Why?
That was the word you were looking for in your last. I don't know why, but the judge said that this waiver was so poorly drafted and so erroneous that it's not worth the paper it's printed on. Which raises, now waivers matter, and I would say to any academy owner, don't print a waiver off of the internet. It's worth the time and effort to talk to a lawyer, not me. This is not an advertisement. I won't do this. I don't do this. But contact a lawyer, maybe an insurance lawyer or maybe a personal injury lawyer, and get a well-crafted waiver that talks about all of these various risks, including paralysis, including death. I mean, shit can happen. And
these days, again, sexual harassment, sexual molestation. Right. I mean,
you can't.
Unfortunately, it's been part of our world. Go ahead.
So I think the sexual harassment and the molestation, you want an insurance coverage. I don't think you want to do a waiver that. Okay. You're not going to waive that.
No. I wasn't saying waive that. I was saying we
Thanks, Bo.
Well, I'm sorry. I was probably while you were talking, I was thinking of what I was going to say.
Yeah, but those things are important. Having the right policy and having the right waiver. Yeah. Sometimes, if you have a good waiver, it doesn't even get to. I mean, it gets thrown out, right? And I mean,
but how come they were able to say there's a waiver and it's inadmissible, and the jury hears that?
The jury doesn't even
know. They don't even hear
a waiver.
Interesting point. And again, you probably heard this in one of the videos. There was a brown belt on the jury. And I'm sure, again, that probably helped somebody to be able to say, okay, yeah, this is making sense. And I'm sure there's a lot of people looking at this going, if you don't know jiu-jitsu or you're not a martial arts fan, I mean, well, if you don't train jiu-jitsu, this would probably, even if you are a fight fan, is not going to make sense to you. What do you mean the arm? What difference does that make? What, and having maybe never having seen this move, they'd be lost. And this might have gone another way. I'm guessing.
No, you're right.
I'm guessing that he was an educator to the jurors.
I 100% agree with you. The lawyers for both the plaintiff and the defendant have an opportunity to strike jurors. There's a whole process called voir dire where you select a jury.
I watched my cousin.
Okay, so you've seen it, yeah. The Two Utes. Great movie. So they, clearly neither side struck this brown belt, and so both of them thought this might be helpful to them. Okay. Now, I think Rener and I don't know Clark Gracie. I hear he runs a really good academy, and he's a good jiu-jitsu guy, famous for his omoplata. And so I'm not trying to knock on him, but Rener was a better expert.
I mean, the only time I've heard Clark Gracie's name mentioned in this was because Rener and Tom talked about it.
Yeah, and because he admitted that he wouldn't teach the role that way. And of course, that doesn't mean it was. I mean, you wouldn't teach it that way. It happened during a live roll, but with the arm trapped, just to go back to that roll, because I don't know if we went over this. It's a forward roll where it's basically like a tandem roll. Your opponent has to roll with you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the technique, whether it's a seatbelt or double unders, double lapels, you're using your shoulder, your head to force your opponent's neck into position to safely roll.
Yeah.
He didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I think that the brown belt, most brown belts are at least aware of that back take. Not everybody uses it, but I think when you hear Rener talk about it versus Clark, or you hear Clark say, I wouldn't teach it that way, and you hear Rener say it's dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, a brown belt might be able to, back in that jury room, they're talking, and I'm sure they're all looking to the brown belt to get further explanation and to understand things. They're required to just base things on the evidence and on whatever common sense they bring to that jury room.
And that would be his common sense. His knowledge of jiu-jitsu is his,
for sure.
Right, he can bring that knowledge.
And I think it's almost unrealistic to think that a white belt can go into a jiu-jitsu academy, become a quadriplegic, and a jury's not going to award something.
Yeah. This is, I go back to, and you said you've listened to the show. We're talking about it a lot lately. People are talking about it online. It's like the whole winning practice. It's like, I've, always had white belts coming in, right? Always have white belts starting. My school went through this run of just very large white belts, large men, my size and heavier coming in. And my coach would always be like, Milton, look what we got you on Amazon Prime today. Like, perfect match for you, right? And now I'm rolling with these very large men who are super spazzy. And I am not afraid to tell them, listen, you got to come down. You have to calm down. You're going to hurt one of us. And I'm worried about you hurting me because I have to go to work in the morning. I love this, but we're, the whole don't try to win practice. This isn't ADCC, right? These aren't the finals.
Yeah.
I am one of the first ones to say to a big guy like that in my gym. I'm one of the first people that'll say it. If you're rolling with me, I'm going to tell you, like, yo, listen, you have to calm down. And it may take a couple of really nasty knee on bellies or, just a little pressure here and there. Just to like, look, I could do this too. Do you want to learn jiu-jitsu or do you want to be,
Right.
And I mean, those tend to be the guys that either hurt you or themselves.
Well, I think that raises another point. This was a black belt against a white belt. Much safer to roll for you and I, for anybody to roll with a black belt or a brown belt than to roll with the spazzy white belt or the blue belt who feels like he has something to prove by tapping out a brown belt. That's where things get dangerous. But another sort of lesson I would say for academy owners, you have to be willing to throw people out of your gym. I don't know if you've ever had to do that or if your coach has ever had to do that, but there are just assholes that come in and they want to prove something or they want to hurt somebody. Yeah. And a lot of gym owners are struggling, especially post-COVID. You're trying to make a very difficult business work. There's lots of competition. There's lots of jiu-jitsu academies. Yeah. So you don't want to turn down students. But I grew up in rough jiu-jitsu, right? These guys that I mentioned before, they're Carlson Gracie guys. Like, this was not patty cake jiu-jitsu. This was tough. And I love that, right? That's what we enjoy that competition and that, sometimes the pain. But there's a difference between rolling hard and trying to hurt each other. And if you have somebody who's trying to hurt people, throw them the fuck out of the gym. Like, it's just not worth it.
I always say that I think those people wind up weeding themselves out, whether it's the coach having to throw them out or them not feeling welcome or enjoying being there. Yeah, I mean, they wind up, I feel like, in a good jiu-jitsu gym, they're going to wind up not being there eventually.
The other thing, and I apologize if I'm sort of jumping around, but it just occurred to me too, because I was talking to some of I know a bunch of people who own academies, as you do too. It's a sort of a Brazilian cultural thing. I think they give these nicknames, and like Sinistro, right? It means sinister. Like, that's a shitty nickname to have for a guy who's getting sued for hurting somebody.
Yeah, right.
And I think really back in he was a good jiu-jitsu guy as a teenager up and comer, and he was like sinister because he was sneaky and he would get things. So I don't think it was meant as it sounds in English.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the jury was told, by the way, we call this guy sinister.
Yeah.
That's so. In academies, it's very common to call somebody a psycho or bath salts or crazy, loco. I think it's a bad idea, right? Because
Bath salts, that's a new one.
Because if let's say somebody gets hurt, right, rolling against psycho or bath salts, it almost feels as if you knew that this person was dangerous.
Yeah.
So there's if you Google this, Geller, lawyer, and pit bulls. A few years ago, I was in Delray Beach driving with my son, and I saw a pregnant woman walking a little schnauzer, and all of a sudden, these two pit bulls jumped on her and her dog. And I probably shouldn't have done this because I had an 8-year-old kid at the time in my car, but I couldn't watch that without doing something. I got out of the car, I kicked the dogs, I helped her. People called 911. It was a whole big thing. Those dogs were put down because they were dangerous dogs. They were known to be dangerous dogs. There had been incidents in Delray before. They sued the woman survived. She sued Delray, but the whole thing was that these dogs were dangerous, and nobody cared. Nobody did anything. They were allowed to stay where they were. If you have a dangerous guy in your gym and you give him a nickname that makes him sound dangerous, then you're asking for trouble if you get sued. So another lesson. Have a waiver, check your insurance policy, and don't give shitty nicknames.
Yeah. We and going back to the move itself, I've just been thinking about this because we've been doing my gym. We've been doing a whole series, including a rolling back take, but it's off to the side. It's almost like a barrel roll. Maybe some guys will go over the shoulder, but it doesn't. The neck isn't going to be injured if you're doing it as instructed. I've seen videos though of guys like in that position, and they're doing a full head, like a stand.
Yeah.
The guy's in turtle, and then the guy is like completely,
well, for a while in this one, I think he was kind of perpendicular.
Well, I mean, like literally, like saying, I think like the B team has a couple of videos out right now where there's like a guy like literally holding that position, but he's in like a handstand kind of position, and he's just hanging out there for a minute, But I remember, it's funny. I learned that move. I think I learned it from YouTube. I brought it to my school. I was a white belt and at blue belt training other white belts, and I would always watch. I was addicted right away, and I'd go home and I'd watch videos all night. I didn't watch TV. I watched YouTube, and I did that move. I never heard anybody. I did that move without being instructed and never understanding. Oh, look, if your shoulder's here, you're pushing his head. You're helping. I just saw somebody do it, and I'm just like, let me do this. Like I would roll I'd grab and roll really hard.
Don't you think you did it because it was a flashy, kind of cool looking move?
Absolutely.
Like you didn't do it because you thought it was the most efficient way to take the back.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was because like this is sneaky.
Yeah.
This is a sneaky way of doing it. I remember I did it at the gym. I don't think I've ever done it at my school that I've been at for 7 years. I've never done it. Like, you do kind of that roll to the side, or more of like almost like a barrel roll, but slightly over the shoulder, but not directly
so like
over
the opposite.
Top.
I as a blue belt with this guy Marcel Ferreira, who's post coach, I had somebody. They were in turtle. I kind of I don't remember if I had a seatbelt or just it was kind of a bear hug, and I pulled him straight. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I pulled him straight backwards, and his kind of knee got caught under him, and he got hurt. He was fine. I mean, he wasn't really hurt, but it was one of the first times, one of the only times I was told, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
It was the opposite of going forward. I was pulling him backwards, but I didn't realize it was fucking
my coach will joke around. It's almost like it's serious, but he says it in a joking way that, there are certain things that you're saving for aisle 9 of Publix. You're out and something happens, and all of a sudden you're in a fight in the middle of a supermarket, and he'll joke about like the little old lady, like,
let go of my eggs.
Yeah, right. Like that's the last jar of peanut butter. But he'll show a move, and he'll be like, and then he's like, and then for Publix, and then he'll show the striking, kind of joking. Look, you're here, and then you can get to your strikes, or you could do something nasty, but we don't drill that. He's just letting you know, okay, look, you're here. Because I think it almost answers that question of sometimes people are like, oh, jiu-jitsu, so does it really work? okay, look, I'm going to hold you here. And then you're forgetting that just because I train jiu-jitsu doesn't mean that I can't also strike.
Yeah.
So he'll show that little, but he'll make that joke about like Publix or Aisle 9 or Walmart or whatever. But there's just certain things that I don't think that we should be doing. I said that, I called myself a hobbyist, and when we spoke, you're like, you're not really a hobbyist. I'm somebody who I do not make my living from jiu-jitsu. So I feel like I fall into that category. Yes, we do the podcast. I train as often as I can, but I'm not making my money from training jiu-jitsu or doing jiu-jitsu. My goal for me is to do this for the rest of my life, to really actually be able to be on that mat till, 70s, I don't know, maybe 80s, I don't know, or at least be involved in that community. I want to do this as long as I can. So I am thinking about getting hurt and injuries that can affect me long term. I might just be like, that's it. Can't do it anymore. I'm done. I just can't go back. So for me, when I'm thinking about those moves, I'm like, I say this a lot to people. When you get a guy that's like really spazzy or somebody that's talking about like that wouldn't work on the stream, it's like, when was the last time you got into a fight? And most people will be like, well, I've never really gotten into a street fight, or they'll be like, oh, it's been years. And anybody that does jiu-jitsu, it's almost like, definitely not since I started training jiu-jitsu, because I know most of us are like, oh, there are people out there that know this and that are better than me that I don't know are walking around out there that don't have cauliflower ear, that don't stand out in a crowd, lawyers, doctors, accountants, secretaries, men, women. You have that moment and you go, yeah, I better be careful of who I get into a scrap with because I just don't know what they know. So these days, for me, I want to be in this for a really long time. I don't want to get hurt. And I'm not training for the UFC.
Right.
I'm not training to get into a fight. I'm not a cop. I'm not out arresting people and, learning handcuffing. I'm there for me. I'm there for my physical fitness, my, kind of mental stability, I like to say, right? This cleanses the mind and the soul. I'm there for a whole different set of reasons. And I found something that I love. And I know I've blown out my knee. I've sprained my MCL here, ACL, MCL sprains. I've been there, and it sucks waiting. I was lucky with that. This one got blown out the day before I went into quarantine for COVID, like the official quarantine in March, right before everything went crazy. Yeah. If there was a time to blow out your knee, that was it. And my school was still open and training, so I was,
right.
They put like freaking tarp on. It was like blacked out the windows, but no, not officially.
You're gonna get them.
But I would have trained. I would have trained during that entire time, but I didn't, and I know that feeling.
They won't get in trouble. DeSantis is the governor. We're okay.
I know that feeling of being off the mat and being so unhappy about being off the mat that I do when I train. I'm safe. I could be. You can. Those two things can exist. You can fight hard, you can train a lot, and you can make sure that you're training in a safe way. I'm not going to do something stupid. I'm not going to, do something stupid to somebody else where I'm going to hurt somebody. Anytime that I've gotten hurt or I've hurt somebody, it's been like, how did you get hurt when we were doing that thing? Yeah. Like, that's not like, I've done a pass and a guy's knee popped and it was just like, what? How did that
happens. It happens sometimes and it's unpredictable. I recently had like I was rolling and my knee, like an hour after I roll, it just blew up. I'll show you a picture afterwards. It's incredible. It looks so freaky. I went to an emergency room. It was bursitis. I never knew what the hell bursitis was.
Yeah, I get that.
My knee was so blown up, and I don't really know exactly. I think somehow my knee hit the mat, and it was just weird. But it's funny because as we get injured, which is inevitable, it's always like, shit, when can I get back to train? Like, that's how I define my injuries. How long am I going to be out? I don't have any diagnosed mental disability or diseases.
Yeah, but we know you're nuts.
I just know how different I am when I'm training and when I can't train. I understand a runner's high. I love to lift weights. Right now, I'm just like, I want to be on the mat. Like right now, I'm a lot going on in my life. Work is busy, and I've chosen to just go to jiu-jitsu a lot.
Yeah.
Because I can go to the gym and train, but it's very solitary still. I'm training. It's just me going and hanging around my guys and my people that are my friends and people that I go to their house to watch fights or go to a party or they come to my, like those kind of people. Go get beers and go watch fights. Right? I need that right now. So like I really like I'm in a better mental state and place because I'm training jiu-jitsu. When I'm not, I feel the difference in myself, and I like to lift weights, but it's not a replacement for me. It doesn't give me that same the cleansing of the soul that I get from just being wiped out trying to fight for my life or trying to kill somebody, basically, because that's what we're doing, right? Short of hey, tap, stop, right? We're literally in like a fight for our life. And there's something beautiful about that. I know cleansing for me.
Totally agree. I feel the same way. The reason I said, by the way, I don't think you're a hobbyist. Like the passion that you have about, I guess there's a continuum of like from a hobbyist who just is a white or a blue that goes once a week.
Okay.
And then of course there's like the competitors, right? Gordon Ryan or whatever. I don't think you have to be either a competitor or a hobby. Like you're so much more than the typical hobbyist. I kind of feel like I am too. Like we love it. We've been doing it for a really long time. We got to a certain level. And then you are doing a lot for the jiu-jitsu community. I think this podcast, it's a really interesting podcast about the sport that you love.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're to me, you're more than a hobbyist.
All right, let's do this unboxing. Normally might have waited till like I'll cut it in later and say goodbye. But since Tony from BJJ Boxes, one of the reasons why we met, and he mentioned you, and then we started talking. Let's do it together.
I hope it's not inappropriate for me to say this. I think he's a good guy, and this is a cool company.
Yeah, great. He's a great dude.
I love getting my box.
Yep.
I really do. Yeah.
It's funny when we say box a lot.
That was for you, Leslie.
I love getting boxed too. Listen, is that on high?
No.
It's not?
No.
It's on low? Because I can hear it.
You can hear it in the
mics.
background?
Yeah.
So this is this shirt is the is
all right.
Rare Breed. Let me go like
Oh,
this.
that's a cool shirt. I was looking
This
at
is
it before.
Rare Breed. You saw this one?
Yep.
Tony called me up. We talk every couple of weeks, and he goes, "Hey, I just want to let you know something about the shirt that I sent you." And he's like, "We had a misspelling. It says Rare Bread." So he's actually said I think he's gonna redo the shirt or get another shirt out to everybody who got this box, who got the shirt. But I thought it was funny. I think
it's great. I got one too, and I like it.
I actually told him, I said, I opened it. He sends us to, he always sends us to. So I always grab one, and I'm going to usually wear it if I'm going to unbox it right out. Hey, I got this other. I go, you know what? If you wouldn't have said anything, I don't know that I would have known. I wouldn't have even noticed. I don't know that I would have been like, hey,
Yeah.
I had a shirt.
It's a collectible now.
I've owned
true
t-shirt
collectible.
sites, and we had the word between misspelled. The W and the T were swapped. Right, you got to think about it, right? Between, right? As the W was first, right? So it should be B-E-T, right? B-E-T-W.
Butene.
Nobody caught it.
Yeah.
Nobody ever caught it. I don't remember how I think I just was looking at it one day, and I'm like, what is it? Sold that shirt a lot. Nobody said a word. So I told him that story. I'm like, I don't think I would have even realized it. Or people would have been like, why does it say rare bread?
Yeah, it's interesting.
This is interesting. This is a little brain teaser here. I don't think anybody would have noticed.
Scientific truth. If the first and last letters are correct, everything else in the middle could be
It's like
scrambled.
blah, blah, blah.
You'll read it right.
Yeah. So anyway, I got the shirt on, so we'll leave it there, right? So
Dude,
rare
that's
bread.
so fun.
Rare bread.
So let's look at so we got let's see, damage control, flavored cleaning spray.
I sprayed that on my. I wear like a night guard because I grind my teeth. I sprayed that on it this morning.
Oh, is it? Is it?
It's for spraying mouth guards,
Okay.
night guards.
All right, very cool. Yes, I brush it I take it, I brush it, and then before I put it in for every train. So I do. Do you wear mouth guard all the time?
I don't wear it during jiu-jitsu. I should, but I don't.
Oh,
But
for
I have to wear
striking?
it. I have to wear it at night
Yeah.
because I grind my teeth because I'm fucking stressed.
Oh, night guard. Okay. My first gym, I wore it anyway for just jiu-jitsu, but my first gym we did Monday, Wednesday, Friday was gi jiu-jitsu. Tuesday, Thursday was no gi with striking class before. So we did like a Muay Thai class, kickboxing class, and then we did an MMA class. So then we did our stand-up, but with takedowns, and you can go into jiu-jitsu and fight on the ground and, with the grappling gloves. So I just always had a mouth guard.
Yeah.
And I use one now. A lot of people ask me about it. I use a Shock Doctor called the Trash Talker because it's very thin. So like I don't have to take it out to. It's thinner than a regular like a boxing or an MMA mouth guard. It's thin enough that I don't have to take it out. I can talk in it, a little slurring, but like the bigger ones you got to like take out to be able to talk. You can leave it. It's called a trash talker for a reason. It's thin enough. It's got like some gel in the like in the back. It's a really good one. I recommend it to everybody. As in fact, a bunch of guys at my gym have started to, again, white belts, elbows, knees. You get hit, right? I don't want to chip my teeth. So we got defense soap, peppermint. All right. We got. Let's see here. Mike's Recovery Relief. Have you used this yet?
I haven't. I haven't used it, but it's like for a bath. It's
mineral
great.
soap.
Yeah.
Right? Support the body. Breathe deeply. Oh, it's probably like got a good like smell once it hits the water, right?
The old Vicks
Mike's
Vapor
Recovery. Very cool. Sound effects man over there. Zoya, White Peach. I think we've had one of these before. This is really good. And then this was I'm like, what the hell is this? Punch Gunk. Tough stuff for the rough stuff. Pain relief. What a name. Very
Punch
cool.
Gunk. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So we always get and you get a t-shirt, right? So you get all this stuff here that you see on the right, and you get the t-shirt. So thank you to the BJJ Box, Tony at the BJJ Box, for hooking us up, for introducing us.
Thanks, Tony.
Awesome dude. Thank you very much, Tony. So let's dive back in. I'm going to put this stuff back in the box. So where were we? We were talking about what was we digressed a little bit, but we wound up talking a little bit about Rener and the amount that he got, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I think Rener, he was a very good expert witness for the plaintiff. He did what he was asked to do. He charged, and I think it's great that he gave that money to charity.
But as somebody who has to pay expert witnesses, that amount was a little bit high.
It was high, but good expert witnesses charge a lot of money, right?
Okay.
And I think he was unfairly criticized because this is not going to change jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
This is not going to make jiu-jitsu soft.
You think he would do it again?
Well, he took a lot of criticism,
yeah.
so I'm not sure. But that dude, I mean, and I think to a certain extent he was selling Gracie University a little bit. He peppered some of his testimony, but that's him, right? That's what his thing. Yeah,
you should have. I mean, for those of us who know, you're gonna get that.
You're gonna get that. That's what he does.
I'm surprised. I don't know if he was like, if he also took off, did he take off his sweatshirt and do the quick flip on the stand? Right.
He was on Shark Tank, but I mean,
big fan. I love him. He's awesome dude.
But I think he's a good spokesperson for jiu-jitsu, much more good than bad.
And I mean, I love what he's doing we talk about it a lot for the law enforcement community.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just amazing what he's doing. He gets a little bit of hate because people, even some of my past guests, they talk about, well, you know what, you've never been a cop, you've never been in that situation, but they are helping train police officers who are then bringing their knowledge to the table, but then also teaching it, right? They're not going around teaching every department, right?
Correct.
They're certifying officers in a lot of these places in their jiu-jitsu. I don't know if does it have a name?
The LEO stuff or the
something tactics. I forget. But just bringing jiu-jitsu to the masses like he's been, I think is incredible. I think we all know. We see the videos. Oh, right. Again, you might not. You're not online a lot. I'm sure you catch the videos once in a while. Somebody's got to send you a link in an email.
I get a lot of videos sent to me. Yeah.
I mean, you see this stuff and you're like, oh my, like, how could you not be holding this guy down?
Yeah.
Or why are you doing that thing right in that position and getting rolled over or getting a gun taken away from you, or just a guy being able to get away and run? And it's just like the most ridiculous situations. And we know that the answer is jiu-jitsu. It's just like, if you knew a little bit of jiu-jitsu, you'd be able to hold them down a little bit longer, wait for a partner, or what should your partner do? I did a seminar a couple of weeks ago. First time I've ever done a law enforcement seminar. Did a seminar a couple of weeks ago with BJJ Cops and Freddie Trillo down here in Miami, and it was very eye-opening. I've been in all of those positions that they taught, but never with the completion and showing the handcuffing.
Right.
So it was just like, it's that short of a jump. But even like somebody's laying on the ground, getting this other arm. Okay, you have this one, and how do you get this arm back there? There's an art to it. And there's an art in the way they grab the fingers, and it's just like, oh, I've been in all these positions. I've never had to put. I've never done a submission where I had to get both of their arms behind the back like that, right? If I get one, right, it's a Kimura, right? It's basically we're ending at the Kimura. They're showing how to continue the Kimura, get that arm locked behind, mount them from the back, right? We don't do that, right? We would have just ended at the Kimura and that's it. So I thought it was an amazing seminar. It was very eye-opening for me. I would do it again. Highly recommend it to anybody who does jiu-jitsu. Especially now these days we see like cops in trouble and then like average citizen going to help out. I'd be like, I feel like I can actually help out, and I know something now.
Did
a little bit more.
Did your dad have any martial arts training?
Zero.
Nothing.
Zero, and there was zero continuing physical education. There was no continuing education of any kind other than qualifying with your weapon once a year. There was no physical education. I should say, I want to say that there was no like in-class de-escalation, seminars. Excuse me, nothing like that. There's nothing. I mean, I remember when my dad was like, I have to go to this thing today. Like he's never, he was New York City Transit Police before they merged with the NYPD. He retired before it just became one big department. But there was nothing. There was never anything, which is incredibly sad. I mean, it's not like that anymore. Well, I shouldn't say. I don't know what it's like in New York City right now, but for most departments, it's just not like that anymore. Like there is the ability to go train a lot of times. Again, like our last guest said, sometimes it's a choice. There are gyms and there's jiu-jitsu available, and you can go into a gym in the morning, train, and then do your tour for the day. But it's not required. I'll tell you, which is the problem.
In with what's going on sort of culturally today, and the importance of de-escalation of conflict. You had that woman cop that was trying to grab a taser, but she grabbed her gun.
She grabbed her gun, yeah.
Man, there's so many situations where I think if they knew jiu-jitsu and you could control somebody, it's make a huge
There's a confidence
difference
that you bring to the table. I know in my personal life, I call it the quiet confidence, that I can walk into any room and feel comfortable that I'm probably going to be able to handle myself if shit went down,
right,
or if somebody started with me or somebody slaps my wife on the ass. I feel very, very comfortable wherever I go. I think in that situation, when you just go through the academy and then years go by and you're not getting some type of continuing ed, you don't have that confidence. Yes, you might have the confidence of having that gun or the taser or both, but the heart rate going up just from being like, oh my God, what's about to happen, versus, oh, I've been here a million times. I've been in this situation. I know how to pull somebody out of a car. I know how to handcuff them. If he strikes me, I know what to do. If you're not ever put in that position, it's just like when guys say, I know how to fight. When was the last time you had a fight? Oh, when I was 12. Well, where do you train? Oh, I don't train.
Right.
Sorry, Bo. This is, Bo's like, no, I got hands. But he trained when he was a kid, right? If you're not doing it all the time, I just try to say, you forgot that. This isn't like riding a bike. Fighting is not like riding a bike. You have to be practicing it to be able to do it. And yeah, people can punch and, yes, right? You could do certain things, but if you're not training it all the time, especially when you're a police officer, if you're not training it, these things are forgotten and you feel uncomfortable and then accidents happen.
And a lot of the guys, not police officers, but just the troublemakers on the street that are such big talkers and such tough guys,
know nothing.
They know nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it comes from that they have that sort of pseudo confidence or whatever. But the scary thing, and I try and tell my kid, I have two boys who are in their early 20s, and like they're athletic kids, they know a little jits, and but there are some people on the street. It doesn't matter if they don't know how to fight. They have like I don't want this to sound awful, but like they have nothing to live. Like you got to be very careful who you're dealing with. Like I think even you just said you feel confident, and I do too. But man, we got to avoid, like, you don't want to get into a fight on the street.
I tell my wife, I say, my jiu-jitsu cannot stop a bullet.
Right.
So, we talk about, like, if something's going on over there, I'm over there. And on top of it, I mean, I don't think it's, like, these days weird to say it. I do carry. It's Florida. I don't like that I have to carry. I feel like I have to carry. I live Coral Springs, one town away. We're right next to Parkland. My niece and nephew, I mentioned before, they live in Parkland. They went to private school, but they would have gone to that. My niece, my nephew would have had graduated already. My niece would have been at that school that day. I don't know where she would have been, obviously, but after Parkland, I wound up doing the class so that you can get your concealed carry, and then I didn't do it for a really long time, or maybe I think I didn't do it right away, and then like other shootings were happening. I was just like, I guess I have to. This is son of a cop, never touched the gun. My father never taught me how to shoot. New York, you don't carry.
Right.
You know, we weren't like going hunt. We weren't hunters. You know, just never really touched the gun. My first coach, really down here, I think it's the first time I ever fired a gun. My first jiu-jitsu coach, he was a law enforcement officer, worked for Homeland. He was a NYPD and then went to Homeland Security. And he brought his AR, he brought his guns, revolvers, shotguns, and I shot all. That was the first time, and that was I started jiu-jitsu right before my 41st birthday, so I was already in my early 40s when I shot my first gun. And I didn't, and you know, now I own 2 weapons, and I do carry. I'm out. If I'm out and about, I'm carrying.
Yeah.
Only because for no other reason than it's the wild. I believe this is the Wild West down here, and anybody could be carrying, and you just don't know these days. So, and again, jiu-jitsu, you know, can't stop a knife and can't stop a bullet.
Do you do any striking training?
I have. I stopped really once I went to this school. I have been hitting, you know, like self-taught hitting a punching bag, either hanging in the yard, or I used to actually. As a single guy in my living room, I'd always have the Everlast stand. So It was part of my workout, just completely self-taught, watching stuff. Just like boxing, maybe a little bit of kicking. But when I started to watch UFC, my friends down here, I moved down here 25 years ago now, my roommates were like, you don't know what the UFC is? They're like, come watch this. Check this out. You're a boxing fan? Watch this. Like sold from like that was the beginning of really starting to understand how to put it all together, or watching people put it together. And then still went years, maybe like another 10 years before I actually went into a gym and trained. And I actually trained, my first place was over there by American Top Team when they were on what is that? Holmberg turned into what?
Johnson.
To Johnson. Right up the road on Hillsborough, there was like a boxing, I called it CrossFit for boxing. It wasn't heavy weights, but you did like lots of classes, jump rope, like you could just do like the boxing motions. But then I did the Muay Thai class there, and I saw they were doing jiu-jitsu on the side. I never took a jiu-jitsu class there. Family friend opened the jiu-jitsu gym, and that was my first coach. And then I went with him. And then, yes, I did stand-up there. Actual stand-up where somebody was sitting back, not just hitting a bag. So from 16 to my 40s, I always had a bag somewhere, and I was always hitting it, just doing it on my own. LA Fitness, I used the bags there, just stuff like that. It wasn't until my 40s till somebody was actually punching me back in the face. Yeah. So and I loved it.
It's
all
part of it. I think, you know, I think it's important to do a little bit of both. I mentioned to you I train stand up a bit with Henry Hooft, who I think is the best stand up coach I've ever seen. He's the nicest guy in the world. Great dude, great wife, great gym. The culture in his gym, you know, it's he's got Gilbert, he's got Chandler, like a lot of really good fighters, and it just seems like such a great place to train.
Yeah.
But man, he could just make little he holds up heads and, like, you know, just he'll look at your shoulder, he'll look at the way you're holding your wrist, and make little adjustments. And I feel he's really improved.
Are you doing stand up on regularly or
with Henry? Yeah,
that's cool.
I don't get in as much as I want, but fairly regularly.
Are you sparring as well? Do you?
Yeah. You got. I think you have to. You know,
be like, wait, I got to go to court tomorrow.
Yeah. You know, look, so it's funny because I've had, you know, if you spar, even jiu-jitsu, you get a black eye every now and then. You know, a little, take an elbow. It doesn't take much, right? The skin is.
Yeah.
And you know, this is the immature part of me. Like, I love getting a black eye and going to court and having the judge say, "Mr. Geller," you know, it's like, yeah, that's right.
I call it a badge of honor.
Yeah,
I say a badge of honor.
Yeah.
I was like, I if sometimes I'll see somebody with a black eye, I'll be like, "Oh, congratulations!" They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You get to tell all the girls tomorrow that you know."
Do you have cauliflower ear at all?
I don't have cauliflower. No, not at all.
So I do.
Every once in a while, I get a little pain, like on the very inside, but I don't have it.
I had it real. I mean, you could see me.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. The inside is, I get that inside right here.
I had it really bad, and I got it fixed by a plastic surgeon.
Oh, yeah?
And he fixed it too well. Like, because I used to like it when people used to say to me, like...
You could see it. You could see it. Let me see your other ear. Because I noticed when I was talking to you, this one...
This one's worse.
Yeah, that one you could see something's going on the inside there. This one looks... That one looks okay. If I didn't know you, I wouldn't, you know, if I didn't know you trained. Yeah. I know, like, guys want it, and like I got my
wife a shirt that says "I heart cauliflower ear" when I had it bad. She's like, "I will never wear this."
Yeah. So people will ask me, they'll find out that you train, and they've like, "Why don't you have cauliflower ear?" And I said, I've talked to other people, and they've said maybe your ears just aren't that sensitive. I say I've always been one of the bigger guys. I haven't trained an American top team. I know that there's levels to this game. I'm in. You know, again, I go back to the hobbyist. I'm in a hobbyist gym, right? You know, these are not guys that are trying to be professional. We're not, you know, haven't done stand up in 7 years. It's very rare, and my coach can kick the shit out of me. Black belts kick the shit out of me on the regular. I get it. I'm beating the shit out of the white to blue and then purple, and they're, black belts are taking it to me. I just haven't been, I think, like, I'm usually a bigger guy even with those people, where it's not often that I'm in really, really bad positions where, like, my ears are getting grinded. That's all I can say. I'm, again, they can beat me, but I'm not getting beaten
You're not stuck in a triangle trying to do that.
I'm not. Yeah, I just haven't been there. There's not a lot of rubbing going on, and I got some big ears too. I got some freaking. They used to call me Dumbo. When my daughter was born, I bought my girlfriend at the time. My girlfriend, I bought her a Dumbo because people called me Dumbo. But then I started to embrace it. I could move my ears too, so I used to get away with that because people would be like, "Oh, you make fun of your ears."
I thought those were headphones.
Yeah, right. But people have asked me, like, you train how the cauliflower? I'm like, well, you see the cauliflower ear, I think, even more often when people are also doing stand-up and they're getting hit in the ears, and maybe with not only the boxing gloves, but with the grappling gloves.
And you have the combination of both.
So,
it's,
but I'm happy to not have it, because even just the little pain that I get, I'm like, man, if I blew... And then I got big ears. And I'm having... When I lose weight, if I lose weight, and my head gets smaller, these things
ears get bigger. I want to show you. We don't have to do it on the podcast, but I want to show you what it looked like.
Yeah, when my daughter was born, her mom, that was like her biggest fear. Because again, when I was thinner, they stick out a lot. My buddies used to make fun of me, like when they were driving behind me in the car. We'd pull over, so we'd like get to where we're going. They'd be like, "Dude, your ears were like with the lights were lit up."
So funny.
Everybody gave it to me. So she was always worried about my daughter having my big ears. So she didn't have big ears, but they did stick out a little bit. So much she would always do her hair and cover her ears, and then. Like, we weren't together, so when she dropped her off in a weekend dad kind of situation, I'd always put her hair up on me. Like, she didn't know she had what her ears look like. Right. She's a beautiful girl. She's
I'm sure. Yeah.
I tell you, your ears are beautiful, but it's definitely a daddy's ears. All right, so I have a couple of listener questions. Let's just dive right in. So, going back to the waiver, this is the Instagram question. The handle is epic, but like lots of underscores, but it says epic. I'm interested in the waiver that was in place that became nullified and how other facilities can avoid that. Now, I want to like kind of expand on it. I know that we talked about it and you said it was so shitty. I still don't understand 100% why would they not let people know. Like, that's such an important fact that there is something in place. Like, you're signing off that I know that I could get hurt. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So the frustrating thing is we don't know why it was inadmissible, because typically a waiver should be admissible. But I'll give you an example. A friend of mine is a lawyer in Atlanta. I went to law school with him, Pete Law. What's up, Pete? He had a case. He does catastrophic injury cases. Mm-hmm. And he had a case where it was some sort of motorcycle park or some, I don't know exactly what, but the waiver was that you waive any injury resulting from riding this motorcycle or racing motorcycles. And his client was in I'm not a motorcycle guy, but his client was in like a sidecar and got like really fucked up. and he was able to get that waiver thrown out because they didn't waive for a sidecar injury. So that would be an example. Like the waivers have to cover the conduct or the injury or the activity. And I actually called just today. I tried to call the lawyer who represented Rener.
Okay.
He didn't call me back, but I wanted to see what was the deal with the waiver, because it's an important question, Epic. I don't know what it could have had the wrong entity. Waivers could be really, really shitty. Let's say it was for a different academy, but he just used it, or it didn't discuss injuries from rolling.
Do you think that changes the outcome at all, though? It's important to know that somebody signs off on this. I understand that it might not have been as detailed as it should have been, but do you think, in the eyes of the jury, as
well? Yeah, I think it. There's a concept called assumption of the risk, and that means that you may assume a risk. And I think if you go to a jiu-jitsu academy and you sign a waiver, and it's a good waiver, and it's the type of waiver that an academy should have, you've assumed that there's some risk. Now, what that means is, in the normal course of jiu-jitsu, and I don't mean Rener, Gracie, nobody rolls, jiu-jitsu. I mean like jiu-jitsu, like your academy or my academy,
rolling from day one.
You're rolling. Now, I don't think you should roll from day one. Which is
that next. That was my follow-up.
Okay. So put a pin in that for a second. But the sort of injuries that we see all the time, the knee tweaks, I think you're assuming the risk, and I think most juries will be swayed by that. You signed. This is a risk that's inherent in this activity that you're choosing to do. What you can't waive is like gross negligence. So I don't think Sinistro engaged in gross negligence, but let's say you have a black belt. I won't even use Sinistro as an example because I don't want anybody to get confused. If you just have some black belt who sort of does something intentional, grinds his, he's got somebody in a katakatami, and he puts his, there's an old thing where you put your chin in the guy's eyeball, and and a black belt does that to a white belt. The white belt, cracks his orbital bone. I don't care that he signed a waiver. Like, that's not what you're waiving. You can't waive that shit. So I think a waiver is very, very important. A good customized waiver. Again, I recommend against printing one off the internet. That could be a starting point, but go to a lawyer and have him. The money that you spend up front getting a waiver that matters, I think, will make a difference. And while I'm on waiver, this is nothing to do with the Greener lawsuit. You and I have joked about social media. You're Mr. Social Media. I'm the opposite. And I have reasons why I'm not. But most academies now have video cameras. That's another issue that's worth talking about. Like, was it helpful or harmful for the case to have the video of the roll? I think academies should have video. And, with Instagram and TikTok, I don't know what the things are called, but people are posting shit all the time. Your waiver better not just talk about injuries, but like there's
that you're going to be on camera.
The use of your commercial image, right? So like let's say you're an academy owner and you start posting some stuff, and one of your students could sue you and say you can't capitalize on my image without compensation.
Was it NIL? It's called like name, image, likeness.
Well,
is that something different?
It's similar, right? So NIL. That's the big topic of like college athletes. They're now able to capitalize off the use of their name, image, and likeness. And I think it's a great evolution in college sports because these universities make a ton of money off of these guys. So why can't they? They benefit, but that's sort of the concept. Is that typically you can't use somebody's image and make money off it without their consent. And so that waiver is an opportunity for them to consent.
That's why we see blurred out faces in videos.
Correct.
Well,
wait,
they may not have that permission. Right?
But isn't that in a public space as opposed to a private space? So for instance, they're in the gym, which is a privately owned space. So anybody that's in the gym, if they get filmed, that's the content of the.
But you should have it in the waiver.
It's not in the waiver. They could say, no, I don't consent to you putting my face out.
I went to the
if
seminar
they sign
that I
a
went
waiver.
to.
If they don't have a waiver, then they're automatically, like, in other words, they the gym owner can film them and use the content because it's in a private space.
No. I disagree. I think they need the waiver.
No, I'm saying without the waiver. Without the waiver, that would be the condition according to the law, from what I understand. Because it's like what I do. If I go shoot at a racetrack and I want to make a movie out of it, I have to actually end up signing a whole thing and paying money.
Correct.
Right.
But if you get the waiver, then you're good. So I think
Right.
yeah.
You would list these things inside of the waiver, right? Like these are the things
You're consenting to certain things, and you're waiving certain risks inherent in this activity that you're choosing to participate in voluntarily.
Does a sign work? Let's say it's not in a waiver, and a sign that says, "Understand that we have 24-hour security footage," like things like that.
Better than not having it, but I think having them read it and sign it is better.
Okay. All right.
I agree.
All right. So let's. We actually got a question from Miguel, who's not here today, but he did message this question. He says, "What is the responsibility or legality of a promotion to compensate an athlete if during the competition the other competitor purposely did an illegal move and caused a career-ending injury?" I think that we're kind of maybe saying, I mentioned it to you before, this is kind of like the Tex incident, right? The Orlando Castillo, who's passed away, with Tex Johnson, right? And he slammed Tex in was it a WNO?
I think so.
Was I believe was it a WNO or
I don't remember. Yeah,
it was one of the ones on Flow Grappling. It was a WNO. I was to know if it was Fight to Win. They weren't airing it there anymore. Where he slams him down, and Tex is I think he was suing Orlando. I think he was suing the organization. Do you know the dynamics of that?
I don't know the specifics of who the defendants were. The organization is likely to get sued in that situation.
Yeah.
But the all the points that we're talking about for an academy really apply. Like, what does the waiver look like? If there was a sort of a almost a criminal act by one of the participants, an intentional, purposeful, disqualifying move that hurt somebody, I think the organization has a very good defense saying this was not the normal course of what we were doing. We didn't do anything wrong. You have this intervening cause, which is this person, but they're going to get sued.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to insurance, right? That's why you have insurance. And I really have a problem with insurance companies just across the board not paying when there's a valid claim, and that situation is going to play out.
So, let's leave that question there for a second. So let's talk about. I'm curious for your opinion. There's been so much made of steroid use in jiu-jitsu lately. Let's take out maybe like in Miguel's question that somebody did an illegal move, and there's one guy on steroids, and he hurts a guy that's not. In an IBJJF where it was a banned substance, right, and they're testing for it, could that person get sued privately, and could the organization get sued if they're hurt by somebody who's taking steroids and has that unfair advantage?
One of the in organizations where there is testing, right? So that makes it illegal. That makes it cheating.
Yeah.
I think it's cheating anyway, right? But the problem is that they test after the event, correct?
Yes.
So
at least for IBJJF, they were testing, I think, just the top two. They only test first and second place.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. I'm a lawyer. I feel like I'm a black belt lawyer, but we don't necessarily know.
I wonder, in my mind, is that akin to like coming in with a weapon? Like, is steroids and your size and your strength that you bring in when it's banned? Let's say call the UFC, right? The UFC, that's banned. You cannot take steroids and fight. You get tested. Everybody gets tested. If I come in and then hurt you, beat you to a point where you have brain damage or something like that, are both myself or the offender and the organization responsible? Can it go both ways?
I think the offender, certainly. I think the organization,
and is it criminal for the person?
That's a good question.
Did we stump you?
Well, yeah, because I don't think it's ever been. I'm not aware of any such lawsuit, but if you're taking a banned substance that makes you, let's call it superhuman, right? That gives you some added advantage. It's not like who's the biker, Lance Armstrong, right? Because now you're hurting somebody.
Yeah.
Like that's what,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a potential liability there. I don't know that the organization would be held liable. Then all of a sudden they're going to have to start testing beforehand, right? Like, you know.
I mean, there have been instances in boxing, and I don't remember the names, but where like stuffing gets taken out of the gloves. There's a famous one going back to probably the 70s or 80s, right? They took some of the padding out of the gloves, and then the opponent got hurt, and then they were like the coach and the fighter were both banned. Like in a situation
That's
like that, I'm like
criminal
thinking
conduct,
like, right.
Yeah.
If you're taking something that's banned or there's an unfair advantage, does that lead to
Well, because it's
could it be
knowingly. If
potentially
you're doing it knowingly,
Yeah.
you could call it criminal deception.
Yeah, no, I think that's criminal conduct, and if you have
Yeah.
a criminal, charge, I think you certainly could have a civil lawsuit for the damage for the injury.
Okay. All right. So I forgot to start my timer again. How long were we back?
We're at 12:50.
Okay. All right. So that we're going to leave the questions there. We have a segment on the show. Have you listened all the way through?
Oh gosh,
You
that
know-
means do I get to
All the
do
way
it?
to
Yeah,
We're ready for the.
The drill down.
There we go. Okay, so we have these. We have about 7 or 8 questions that we typically ask. We're just going to jump around. These have come from like some of the most commonly asked questions that people send for guests. So we kind of formed.
Fuck, I wish I listened to this. Yeah, I would have been prepared.
All right, so you didn't listen to the end. Gotcha. All right, so the first question is, do you listen to the podcast to the end of the show? Yeah. Okay. So
You
okay,
dog.
so we can expand on these at all. This is a little bit more on the personal side of it. Putting aside the the case and things like that. So, so number 1, preference. Now that you're training both, training at 10th Planet, gi or no gi? Do
I'm
you have
still
a
a
preference?
gi guy. Like
Yeah.
I'll always be. I love it, but
Yeah.
I have a great respect for no gi.
Okay. Go ahead. You can expand on it. Did you have more to say?
So yeah, no, I feel like I'm sort of a traditional kimono guy. I think it's, and I didn't when I first started taking jiu-jitsu, I was like, the gi. But now I love some of the lapel chokes, and I like. I think it's a slower game, and for me, as I'm older, I'm not as flexible. I still have some strength, and so I still have good grips. And I think I feel in control in a gi. The no-gi game, although my academy, I think, has no-gi classes. I never really was a no-gi guy. But now, as I said, I'm training a bit with some 10th Planet guys. And it's been eye-opening for me. I think it's some really, really cool moves. I'm also sort of learning the leg lock game, which was never a big part of my game.
Mm-hmm.
And they're amazing leg lockers and knee bar. I told you about the guy I learned knee bars, and then just other sort of weird. They've got great names. It's a fucking bunch of stoners that come up with these awesome names. And
So as someone, this leads me to this question. This is aside from the drill down. So I've primarily trained in the gi. We do no gi as well at my school. We actually do more no gi now. We have 2 days a week that we do no gi. We're open 7 days a week, so it's like two open mats on the weekend.
jiu-jitsu for life.
Yeah, man. So as someone like we're just like really getting. I'm at brown belt, really just kind of getting the leg game. Does that like I've always been like, man, I don't know, like I can't hold my own in that arena just yet, especially on the no-gi side. I mean, I know positions but I'm definitely not where I want to be. As somebody that's on the cusp of a black belt, what would you tell somebody like me? Like I don't know if I'm worrying about it too much.
So don't have imposter syndrome. I promise you, there are black belts that know as much or less than you about the leg game. It just wasn't a big part of it.
Yeah.
I think it's important. So I think I encourage you to learn, because I think like when I roll now, it's such a big part of like the evolution of jiu-jitsu that I feel like if I don't have at least the threat of getting your a heel hook or attacking that bottom half of your body, then it gives the other guy such a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. And I think you need to you probably already know this, but learn how to defend a leg entanglement.
Yeah.
But No,
that you use the right words. Like you start to feel the imposter syndrome at this. Did you go through that?
I did too. I used to say
yeah.
I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, but I'm a white belt in
Yeah.
But you'll pick it up fairly quickly, and you just need to know just enough, right? So that's never going to be. I think at this point you have a game, right? You have your jiu-jitsu. I have my game. My game is not a leg lock game. I might surprise you, and if I see it there, I've got some setups from De La Hiva where I may go for that. But I think it's important to learn. But again, like I love that jiu-jitsu is evolving, and I think 10th Planet and even like I don't know if you know Mikey Musumeci, but so my son used to train with AJ Sousa, and before Dylan, my son used to go to AJ's. Mikey was there, and just what a nice guy. But like, that's different jiu-jitsu than what I grew up with. I think it's great. Like, there's a lot of old school jiu-jitsu guys that don't want to learn it. They have a closed mind. Isn't that the opposite of what a martial artist should have? Right? Yeah. Shouldn't we be open to learning new things and to evolving and to? It doesn't mean it's going to become the way I do jiu-jitsu. I'm not going to try and berimbolo you, but I'm gonna. I want to know it. I want to be able to at least play with it a bit or defend against it.
Okay, cool. So takedown or pull guard preference?
So I think because of some of my injuries, I don't have a great takedown game anymore. So I'm a guard puller. I like to slap hands and start from the ground. I don't want to be we talk about these injuries and like, was that back take that Sinistro used dangerous? I got dumped on my head in I think they call it katagaruma, which in Japanese is a shoulder wheel. It's a fireman's carry.
Okay.
In a rough roll, where you're starting standing and you get tossed in a fireman's carry, like that's rough.
Yeah.
And some of these judo throws, they're rough. And so, I did it for years and years and years, but I'm sort of beyond trying to get slammed.
Yeah. Yeah, I trained with two judo brown belts, who one is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu on the cusp of black, and one is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And I'm super conscious of it with them. Like, I'll maybe purposely stay on my feet a little bit longer, but stay away.
Yeah.
Like, keep them at a distance. But I'm a guard puller. It goes back to I'm not there to train for the next ADCC,
right.
That would be wonderful if I could live my life again and start earlier. Let's do some jiu-jitsu. I'm not so worried about the throws and or again hurting myself. So it's on my mind. It doesn't stop me from rolling hard, but I'm smart enough to know that
I think we're sort of similar in that.
I don't want to. What benefit do I have of rolling super hard to get hurt?
Right.
I've done it before. I've done it and been hurt. Again, starting over 40. And we know how hard it is to recover from injury, especially once you break 40.
From everything, dude.
Yeah.
Remember when you were a kid, you could play tackle football out in the backyard?
Yeah.
Like, now everything, it's just the recovery.
Muscle gun twice a day, CBDs, roll-ons.
You're making coffee. Sprained my arm making coffee the other day.
It is, if I want to train, like I was sick a couple weeks ago, and went back and I trained for 7 days in a row. I usually don't do that. It's usually one on, one off. The only time I do two back to back are usually Saturday and Sunday because they're open mats. They're in the morning, and I have a whole day to recover over the weekend. And I went for 7 days, and that I had to, in order to do that, I had to use the So Right every day. I had the muscle gun 2 to 3 times a day. Cold showers after training, short of an ice bath. Yeah. That's what I can do. Cold showers. Tylenol, because I can't really take anything else.
You gotta be careful about Tylenol.
Yeah, but in these 7 days I had to. Ibuprofen kills my stomach. So all of those things, eating good, had lost a little bit of weight during that time too. So just eating right, like I had to do everything for me to still get there. And now this week it's been back to like every other day because it's just I actually did Sunday, Monday, and then off Tuesday, did Wednesday, off today. But I'll train Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll train the next 3 days.
That's more training than I did.
Yeah, I feel a certain responsibility to be there more now because of where I'm at. it's for me. It's no responsibility to anybody else. For me, I want to if and when I get that black belt, I want to know that I earned it. I want to know that I worked hard for it.
Sure sounds like you did.
And I'm closer. But there have been times that it's been 2 or 3 days a week for long periods of time. Almost always because of injury. Something hurts. You have to pull up a groin muscle, right? That's a bitch because that one's like hard. You just keep on re-injuring it.
When
and
I
get worse, it never
when
heals.
I had my hip, it hurt for a long time before I finally got it replaced. But I thought I had a groin pull or a groin muscle.
Yeah,
it just wouldn't get better. It wouldn't get better. So that was my first sign that somehow. I mean, I'm not. I hope your groin pull is. But I finally went and got an MRI or an X-ray. I don't even remember, but they're like, shit, it may not be your groin. I'm not sure why it hurt in the groin, but that was the first indication I had the bone on bone.
Like down here. And I've been talking about this on the show a lot. I've got bad shoulders, so I try to stretch it out as long as I can, but I've been getting cortisone shots. And the cortisone shots.
About that too.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
I know. I've said I need to get through the next belt before I start doing surgeries. If I stopped now, the amount of time that I'd have to take off
that was my life.
Would kill me.
Yeah.
Would kill me. I would. I'm like, let me at least get to this next goal. Don't want to rush it. It'll happen when it happens. But in my mind, I am not, unless I have to, I'm not stepping off the mat.
And are you still lifting?
Not because I got sick. Only a couple weeks ago, so I stopped. So it's been like 3 weeks. I've stopped. But I do lift, and I do think that it's important for recovery.
I think
it helps with recovery.
Jiu-jitsu, using strength
in my roles.
What's your view of that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I definitely see when I roll, it's an edge, just like my weight is an edge. It's like 247, I think was the heaviest I've ever been. I'm at 230 right now. I'd like to get down to low 220s. I think that's like, shit, I moved to Florida. I was 210 25 years ago. Like 220 would be nice. 210, I'd look like a beanpole compared to the way I look now. I think it's an important part. I'm not a believer in the, strength is one of my attributes. My weight is one of my attributes. I'm not fast. I'm not flexible. I shouldn't say. For my age, I think I'm pretty fast, but I'm not flexible.
Right, but your strength is what.
I think it's part of my game. It's definitely part of my game. So
all this, it's interesting because all these years I've been doing it, I've been told, try not to rely on strength, and you don't want to rely on strength, but don't use your strength. You have technique better than strength. And just recently, I was rolling with a guy, a 10th Planet guy, this guy Bendy I mentioned, and I said, yeah, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm using a strength. And he looked at me and he said, why wouldn't you? Like, if you're tall, you're not going to not use your length, if you're strong, use your strength.
That's just squat down,
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was a pretty good way of looking at it.
I love north-south,
mm-hmm.
And just, nice heavy on the side control. I feel like I can get it from a knee on belly and get a north-south, like a nice north-south choke. I'm sure a lot of people could do it, but like I'm just so comfortable from
especially with
holding somebody in that position. I like to say, like now, I've been hearing people say cook them. I'm like, cook them.
Yeah.
I think Eddie Bravo says cook them. Cook them a little bit, make them expend some energy, and then, a bigger guy, lower belt is going to be able to really impose your game. So for me, it would almost be like, don't use your weight.
Right.
Don't we say like, give him the shoulder, like really put your weight on him. Well, I do that, right? So why wouldn't I use my strength? Right. And I feel the difference in my jiu-jitsu, especially like I think it offsets. It's one of the things that offsets like a younger, maybe more skillful person. I think that my weight and my strength will offset that. What are they? I forget the quote unquote equation, but like for every belt rank, like you take 5 years. Like if I'm fighting a kid that's 25 and he's a white belt, but I'm a brown belt at almost 50, like we're kind of even because of our age, right? Like certain things make us even out. And I believe that. I think that that's true. So for me, the older I get, the younger these guys, seem. I mean, I'm in a school constantly got 16-year-old kids coming out from the kids program. They're graduating into the adults program, and these kids they're tough.
Yeah.
These kids have been training longer than me in a lot of cases, training from 5-6 years old, and now they're 16. Like they're they've been training just as long as me, and these kids are freaking tough. We've got a kid in our school. Everybody used to call him Little Alex because we had two Alexes. We had an adult Alex and we had a little Alex. And little Alex is 19 now, and little Alex isn't the little Alex anymore. Right. Little Alex is freaking. He's diesel. He's training. He trains a lot. He's super flexible, super technical. He's been training since single digits, and he's really good.
Cujo
and
now.
when I used to fight, roll with him, I remember when he first came into I couldn't even roll with him because I was too big for him. Right. I was too heavy, and coach would be like, coach usually says, grab somebody who makes sense.
Right.
So it's not like the black belt at 200 pounds or 250 training with the white belt at 150 pounds or whatever. So I remember those days. And now when I roll with him, I go, time to take my medicine. Let's do this. And he's fucking tough, man. He's good. And he's good. It's great to see though, Yeah. But I'll use it all day long. I'll use my strength all day long. And for me, the weightlifting has become a little bit more about recovery. I feel like I recover a little bit better. The stronger I am, right, the less my back hurt, like the less things hurt. At least that's how I feel. So let's get to the next question. So music during rolling. Are you a fan?
So I am.
Okay.
I am. And it's funny because I've gotten fucking stuck in I've got the same playlists. Like it's 80s like rock. Like,
don't worry, that's okay. So, I'm stuck with 90s R&B.
Yeah.
The next question is, what's your preference? So,
but I still like the kids like the hip hop, which I resist. But like Eminem or Jay-Z has a song with I don't remember who, but it's Numb Encore. So there's these old.
Oh, you're talking about Linkin Park? They did that mashup,
right?
Yeah,
that's still on my jiu-jitsu
It's on my playlist. I listen to it on the way down. It's mixed in with my music.
Yeah.
So I was saying, I can actually. I like listening to anything. Certain music will make me joke around a little bit. Like sometimes all of a sudden a love song pops into whatever the coach. Yeah, just like something comes in, and then I'll jokingly sing to my partner or something. I like to have fun when I'm rolling. I like to laugh. I'm a talk. Right. Surprise! I talk during a roll.
At 10th Planet in Pompano, Matt. He played. It's really been much different, but it's kind of cool. I wish I remembered the name, but he has a genre of music where it's it almost like a roll. It kind of builds. It starts slow and it sort of builds. And it's shit that I've never listened to before, but I enjoy it.
Literally anything. Literally, I'm even into country music now. So I've never trained at a place that puts country music on, but I will. In my car, it'll go from Papa Roach to Kane Brown to some freaking love song from the 80s, some R&B. So I listen to it all. And
you're doing line jitsu now?
What's that?
Line jitsu?
Line jitsu, yeah. Right. All right. So are you a consumer? I know you don't watch, you're not online, you said a lot, but are you a fight fan? Do you watch UFCs?
Oh,
Do you watch boxing?
Yeah.
Do you watch BJJ events?
So I have a subscription to Flow Grappling. I don't watch it as often as I should. I'll go on YouTube and find a fight, a match that I'm interested in. I used to go to UFC back in the day all the time. Forrest Griffin is a friend. I met there's a guy named Rory. It's a whole long story, but Rory Singer fought in the UFC. He was in the Ultimate Fighter. Guy from Athens, Georgia. He and his brother Adam. Great jiu-jitsu, great fighters, great people. Great. Adam's a sick coach. I mean, Rory is too, but they were Forrest Griffin's original coach. And it's a whole long story, but Lambert used to put on something called the AFC. This is probably, do you remember the AFC? It may have been before you started.
No, I don't remember. I know it because we had Jessica Aguilar on, who was the first female fighter.
Yeah, I know Jessica.
So she was, when we were doing the podcast at my house, she came and did a podcast with us. And she mentioned it. She mentioned the first days.
So, Pahumpa was her jiu-jitsu coach. But that used to be sick. There was a lot of fights. And at the time, these great American Top Team fighters, and there was a sort of a competing school where, Charles McCarthy is a friend of mine, Chainsaw Charles. He fought in the UFC. Masvidal, they were part of a a team. I mean, they ended up going to ATT. It was called FFA, which I think was like Freestyle Fighting Academy, and there were these. It was just great fights. And Rory was supposed to fight Marcel, and at the time, there was like the underground forum was like the online where there's like shit talking, and I started shit talking this guy Rory Singer because he was going to fight my coach. And dude, I think the guy wanted to fight me, and so I wasn't going to be a pussy. I wasn't an MMA fighter, but like he's like, yeah, well, we'll see when I'm there if you're going to come and say this shit. And somehow we ended up talking, and jiu-jitsu and MMA, it's just a weird thing where it's a community, and we just became friends. He was Forrest Griffin's coach. I ended up going to Rory's wedding, and I text with Forrest. Like, so I went to Belfast. They both fought in Belfast. I went with them. I used to go all the time. I go less and less now to live events, but I still watch them. I'm still interested. And so I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I would have went to the UFC down here.
I was ironically, I was in Vegas, and Henry had like 7 fighters fight that night.
Yeah, you would have been there?
I would have been there. And I mean, Gilbert fought, Gilbert's a great guy.
Yeah, man.
But I was in Vegas for a work event. So
I'm that's really where this, for me, watching boxing as a kid with my pops, and then getting into the UFC, that's where this all came.
Watching with your pops. So my dad passed away a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
He was just a great dad, and I remember watching boxing with him.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is not what you were talking about with the guy who took the padding out, but do you remember Ray Boom Boom Mancini?
Yeah.
And he fought.
He killed the
right. And like that was just a freak accident.
Yeah.
And I think it fucked him up. I don't think he fought after that.
I don't remember if he fought again.
But I remember watching that.
If he did, it was for a very short amount of time after
in my house in New Jersey with my dad.
Then he became a commentator. I remember that as well. I was very young.
We were kids. You were younger than me.
It was in the beginning when I watched with my dad, it was because we only had one television, and when boxing was on, my dad had control of the TV, so I'd watch, and then starting to know it and learn it. Where it really kicked in for me when Mike Tyson came around. I was in high school.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson's fighting. I'm probably 16, 17, and he's becomes the youngest champ at 19, right?
A killer.
That's when I started. I loved boxing so much by that point. I did a speech. I was like in an English class where you had to write speeches or at least whatever. I just wrote a paper on Mike Tyson, and our birthday's on the same day, June 30th. So I was like, I had that tie. It was my favorite. Oh, it's my birthday. It's meant to be, right? So that's what really when I fell in love with boxing. But then I carried over into watching the UFC. Funny enough, my dad would be like, I don't want to watch that shit. I'd be like, hey, we're having a UFC party, but now he watches it all. He watches way more than me. A retired guy, older, but my dad used to watch like Friday night fights on ESPN. He watches Dana White Contender Series. He's telling me about stuff, and he's like, you do a podcast, you're not watching this stuff? I'm like, Dad, man, I can't watch everything. There's just so much content. I focus more on the jiu-jitsu stuff and UFC. But he's watching Dana White Contender Series. He's watching the reality show. I think in Spanish, and all the other ones. So now he's come around, and now he's a fan. So I can watch it with him, and now he's knowledgeable. So it's fun. Ultimate goal in jiu-jitsu. What do you want your legacy to be in the world of jiu-jitsu specifically?
Oh, just that's a good question. I think from a competitive standpoint, I'm not a competitor, but I want to be a tough role for people, safe but tough role, and that gets harder and harder as I get older and older. But I think I've gotten past the point of, it being about, they say it shouldn't be about winning and losing, especially in the academy. If you don't lose, you learn, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's true. And so I don't give a shit about getting tapping. I used to not want to tap, and I used to want to get the tap. And I think my ego, I've gotten to the point where I don't necessarily care about that, but I certainly don't want to be like a whatever, a tomato can, whatever they call it. Like I'm a tough role.
Tomato can? Is that what they,
Yeah. So I want to be a tough role for people, but I also want to be somebody that was helpful to the community. I've helped instructors in various ways. Supportive, helping students. I taught the kids class for a while. Yeah, that was my way of trying to get my kids interested. You know,
did they? You mentioned before, like your boys.
Yeah,
like,
they did it. So
you said a little bit
when
of
they were
jiu-jitsu.
young kids. They did it, and it was a lot of fun.
Was it
for
mandatory?
Me.
Like you guys?
No,
you gotta
I was
learn
never
this.
like that. I was never like that. It was like, hey, let's have some fun. And teaching a kids class is tough. Like depending on how young they are, but it's somewhere between babysitting and trying to teach some discipline. And I think it's great for kids. But I always was somebody like, shit, man, I'll help clean the mats. Like I just want to be somebody who was a good contributor to the academy, and that's all.
All right. So this is our last question. I think I know the answer to it. I think like if I recall, like there was. Oh, I think it was in the article that you sent. The legal, was it Legal Dragon? Law Dragon.
Law Dragon.
Right? Law Dragon. Do you or do you not wash your belt?
Interesting. So the Law Dragon. So it's funny. I actually heard you. I had until recently. I had never washed my belt. I was always under the presumption that you're not supposed to wash your belt. I'm a clean freak. I'm a neat freak. Like I don't want ringworm, but like Marcel. Well, that's what he called. So Marcel, I love you, buddy. This is again my original instructor. He come train me. I get to class. I'd say, "What's that shit all over you?" He goes, "Ringworm. It's normal." But that was a long time ago. Things have changed. But like now, like I've got mats at home. I clean them religiously.
Neutral zone.
Neutral, yeah. But I think it makes sense now. Like shit, if your gi gets, sometimes my gi is. I hate rolling. I won't roll with people with gross gis that they haven't washed. Like have you done that where you're rolling with someone and you fucking smell it? And I used to be like, I just felt like it was rude to say something, so I would just kind of just
go with it.
But not anymore, man. Like, but
I still probably go with it because I feel bad.
Yeah.
Screw that, man.
Nah, I've given away like some old gis here and there when I'm like a guy. Like even there comes a point where even when you wash it, it still smells. It may not look dirty, but like it kind of.
But like I feel
it gets
bad,
that
like,
stink really quick. Even like some rash guards or some like workout gear, like I wash it, and then as soon as I start sweating it
you smell it back.
There's
right?
something about it. This is like it activates the freaking germ. So I know that happens. So I've actually given away. If I have an old gi and I'm not wearing it anymore, I always find somebody to give it away. So I've done that
true,
more than
because
once.
I think in fairness, like there's people that can't afford.
Yeah.
Gis have become expensive. But to answer your question, like if my belt gets kind of funky, I'll wash it.
Yeah.
How about you?
I wash it. I have 2 brown belts. The one that my coach gave me, and then one that I got from Flow and Roll, our sponsor. Yeah. So I mostly wore up until now. I mostly wore the Flow and Roll. It got super faded, and I had the other one in my bag, and I'm just like, it looks nicer, and I just started wearing the one that my coach gave me. So I'm gonna be honest. I wash it a lot less than I used to. Because of everybody talks about the fading thing, but I do. This is not I'm not just shouting them out because they're a sponsor. I actually spray it with Neutral Zone. Now we got this. We got these bags early in the day that was called a stinky bag. It's basically a bag that was probably a little bit more meant for around COVID. It became big for people to put their doctors and nurses to put their scrubs in and then go wash them. So they had different size bags, but the bag that I have fits my gi, fits my entire gi and my belt.
What size gi are you?
A3. A3. So I put the whole thing in this bag, right? And I can carry it home. Now I do take the gi out. But the stinky bag, it's got a zipper on the top and a zipper on the bottom. So I put it in through the zipper on the top. And when you unzip it on the bottom, the bag comes out and it's a mesh bag. So you just wash the whole bag and everything. You can wash it with everything in it. The gi needs to open up, so I do take the gi out, but I'll put my hand wraps in there from when I do. I still, hit the bag once in a while. So if I've got my wraps, I've got a bag in my garage, or I go with my wife to a kickboxing gym. So I got my wraps. I'll put my belt. I'll leave my belt in there, and I'll wash that all together. I wash it, my belt specifically, a little bit less, but I always lay it out. I spray it. I've sprayed it with Lysol. I spray it with the Neutral Zone when it's handy. But I almost always put everything from the gym. I have a backpack. I have a flow and roll backpack. It's like the old army style, those, what do they call those, duffels? The duffel bag. I go to my gym with everything clean. And when I leave, I don't put any of my dirty stuff in that bag. I put it in the stinky bag. And then I actually hook the stinky bag to my backpack. So I've got like my backpack with this other bag like hitting my ass down my legs. And that's how I go bring myself home. So I know people have thought I've like, you're being overly cautious, and I'll use the wipes and I'll spray myself down. I don't want to get sick. So I got to work. I want to train the next day. And with COVID, after COVID, it was just like, I'm definitely more conscious.
Have you ever seen the foot bath before you step on the mats?
I've seen that in a video at a school, but I've never seen it like live.
The 10th Planet in Pompano. He's got, and every guy.
So everybody walks through it like
there's like one tub where you put your feet in, and then you step into the next tub where it like towels it off. And he wants to do that before you step on the mats.
Okay. I mean, I think that's reasonable. I'm also like a big fan of like eyewear.
Yeah, feet can be gross. Man.
I walk across if I got to go to the bathroom, I walk across and I get my slippers. I go over to I'll walk around the mat, whatever. I put my slippers down and I walk into the bathroom with my slippers. That's a little bit of a pet peeve. I don't know. That's a pet peeve for me.
You know what?
Is especially like the men's bathroom.
Yeah, you can't go in there.
I could see like when the ladies might go into the ladies' bathroom because they're not standing up peeing. I don't think for the most part.
They're walking it. Yeah.
You still walk it. It's still a place where you do. There's meant for certain things, and you can get that on the mat. I won't roll in like our mats end, and there's a space, and then you can go to the bathrooms here. I won't because I know that some people will walk in barefoot
right from the bar. Yeah.
I won't roll in front of the doors. I usually find a place away.
That makes sense.
But gym is clean. Like I've been in gyms. My gym is super clean. We got like a large gym for jiu-jitsu, like the typical. It's not an American Top Team, but it's pretty large. It's like the equivalent of I think like 4 storefronts is the size of our gym. So it's pretty big for most gyms, and super clean. Everything's always nice. Projector screens. He had a popcorn machine. He's got coffee. Like he's had all the amenities for the parents. There's a massage chair.
Nice.
So parents can you're out, you're hurt, you sit in the massage chair. So but like little things like that are my pet peeves.
Yeah.
Nails.
Yeah.
No slippers in the bathroom. Stinky geese and stinky belts. I even the other day just as a joke because I did roll with somebody who's like gi is like starting to look like it's white, but it's starting to look like this, like dirty, like blackish, like it's like charcoal. And when I was done rolling with him, we got up and we were lining up, and I was like, "Wash your gi in your belt, guys." Yeah. I just like walked away. I want him to hear it. I don't think he's so new, and I don't want to like hurt somebody's feelings. Like sometimes people get a little butthurt and they don't want to come back. Oh yeah, you're an asshole. Like. It's like should be the responsibility of the coach, but I'm not scared to say something to somebody once I know them a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the occasional sneaky geek guy that doesn't know. Like we had a guy, I won't say his name, but we called him Stinky, and his name Stinky something behind his back. He would like leave, get out of his gi and his pants, tie it with his belt, and put it in the trunk of his car, and we would see him come back. And get it out of the car, and like you come in and you'd be like, you could smell it.
Baked in the trunk.
Yeah, you smell it, right? Then it gets that moldy smell, and we used to just be like, his jiu-jitsu was awesome. Nicest guy you'll ever meet.
Well, his jiu-jitsu was awesome because nobody was getting close. Yeah.
But his gi stomped.
They were passing out. That's why.
Yeah, man.
If you're Mr. Stinky with your 200 whatever you are and your north-south position, that would suck. I'm just kidding.
That would be.
I shower a lot of days, like I'm working all day. I'll shower before I go to the gym.
Yeah,
I'll shower before I go to the gym. On the weekends, maybe not so much during the week, but like maybe I've had a long day and whatever. I'll shower before the gym. I'll absolutely shower on a weekend before I go to the gym. The only thing is, it's so weird. I discovered this. When I go to Nogi on Saturday and I take a shower, me and this kid we were rolling together and we were doing these leg entries. We were doing like pull, like almost like a pulling a guard, but then like doing a leg entry.
Right.
And we were like rubbing up against our legs. We were like, I said, you know what? I just took a shower and I know, like, you know, all your oils in your sweat are gone. So he's like, oh, I just took a shower. So like our dry, non-sweaty legs were like rubbing against it was just like sandpaper against each other. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I got a reason to not shower if I have the jiu-jitsu.
That's a boil in the making.
All right.
Jiu-Jitsu's favorite monthly subscription box has now joined the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies podcast. The BJJ box is delivered to your door filled with premium jiu-jitsu and grappling apparel, equipment, supplements, supplies, snacks, and more. The crew at the BJJ box find the best in the world of jiu-jitsu and guarantee every box to be worth more than the cost. Each box includes 4 to 7 items you're going to love. Visit thebjjbox.com and use code JJD10 to get $10 off your very first box. And give them a follow on Instagram at TheBJJBox. Neutral Zone is Combat family owned, so they know you need to keep yourself and your equipment clean. They created Neutral Zone Clean wipes and sprays for just that purpose. Neutral Zone products are formulated to reduce the risk of bacterial and fungal infections. Whatever's making you sweat, weight training, rolling on the mats, yard work, or just working around the house, Neutral Zone Clean wipes and sprays can make you feel and smell refreshed. Use code JJD to get 15% off your online order at neutralzoneclean.com. While you're there, sign up for their newsletter to receive the latest info and updates on product launches like their new shower gel and soap bar coming soon. Are you Neutral Zone Clean? Special thank you to the crew over at Flow and Roll for all their support. Flow and Roll is renowned for their incredible Nogi rash guards, shorts, and leggings. Flow and Roll has quickly become the premier custom apparel provider for academies big and small throughout the United States. Reach out today to discuss your custom order and ask about their incredible pre-order program. You can send an email to flowandroll@gmail.com or visit their Instagram at flow_n_roll and shoot them a direct message. And yes, they can create an awesome custom gi for your academy as well. Visit flowandroll.com to check out their awesome designs, and while you're there, pick up a Jiu-Jitsu Dummy signature tee exclusively at flowandroll.com. And remember, you'll get 20% off your purchase of t-shirts, rash guards, or gis with code JJD.
Listen, I always give a guess if anybody you want to say hello to, any shout outs. I'll shake your hand too.
I thought you were extending your hand.
I was going to say, well, no, it's your time. People want to shout out sponsors, friends, coaches. This is your time.
I have no sponsors, but man, I mentioned most of the coaches, but Rodrigo Mendez, RMBJJ in Delray Beach, he's moving to a new location. 10th Planet Pompano, Matt Walsh on Atlantic, great guys, and then all my past, man, from Pompina to Dustin to Marcus Aurelio, Chris Martins, shit, I don't want to miss anybody. Ernesto Mendez in Aspen. I spent some time out in Aspen. He's a great coach. I've learned a lot from him. And of course, Henry Hooft, the stand-up. Marcel Ferreira, can't forget him. And my wife, Leslie, who has supported me doing jiu-jitsu, she's been with me forever.
You got to tell me the secret to that one.
She doesn't love it. But yeah, my first wife, happily married, love her.
Did she realize? I like my wife. I said before, like she just realized, like I'm better with the jiu-jitsu than I am without it.
Yeah, I think
she realizes that it wasn't just about her finding something. She realized, like, yeah, he's calmer. Like I tell her, like if you're gonna fight with me, you have an argument. Like get me after jiu-jitsu class, not when not like I'm going there to get rid of the stress of the day. I'm gonna come back stress-free. Talk to me then. True? Like talk to me, or like if you're mad about something, I'm going to be I'm gonna be the easiest person to talk to, a better version of myself. Everything is gone from the day. I'm not thinking about the account that's got a problem or the website that wasn't built in time. Like I'm not thinking about all the BS.
And then like you leave the academy and you're in your car and like some dude cuts you off and gives you the finger. Like who cares, right? Like
dude, it's the guy trying to kill me.
It's this cathartic feeling. And then if I'm doing shout outs, I gotta shout out my kids, Jared and Dylan. Two most important people in my life.
There you go. All right, man.
Thanks, man.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate you coming in. Check us out at Jiu-Jitsu Dummies on Instagram for all the ways to watch, listen, and support. My Instagram is at Uncle Milty BJJ. You don't have an Instagram?
I have no Instagram.
You don't want to give your social media if you
Nope.
had it, right?
Nope.
Okay. Bo?
At BADWERKS.
All right, man. And Miguel, we missed you. Hopefully we'll see you soon. And thank you for watching and listening, everybody. Peace, love, jiu-jitsu. Os.